Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Yachts here, and I'm a little early because I got cut off yesterday early, so I wanted to come back early. A lot of stuff I wanted to say at the end of the show yesterday, but YouTube crapped out on me again, having some technical difficulties. So in some ways, I wanted to get ahead and get on it now early to establish a good connection and get going with our Thursday think tank today. Now, we do have the phone line open today. If anybody wants to call in and talk about the draft for the Raptors, that is our subject today. And I've got a list of 10 players that I have for both the picks, 5 for 19 and 5 for 50, that I'm suggesting to the front office of Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman and the rest at the Raptors. There's been a lot of talk recently. The mock drafts around different places have us saying we have two needs, but I really don't see the two needs. The justification for why people think that we need a point guard is silly to me. All over the place. I see it on Bleacher Report, Ringer, ESPN, Yahoo. All these people saying, experts, that the Raptors obviously need another point guard. I'm like, wait a second. Why do you say that? They say that because of the performance in the playoffs against the Cavs. That, the Raptors need another point guard. Why do you say that? Because Emmanuel didn't play a single game in that playoff. We have a point guard. It's like people forget we have Quickly. Quickly's birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday to Emmanuel. The Raptors of men put out his highlights from last year, including that buzzer beater in Charlotte. That was phenomenal. And a little pat on the back for myself because I predicted that Emmanuel was going to make at least one game winner this year and win a game outright for us at the end of a game by hitting a huge shot. And he did in Charlotte when we went there after New Year's. So I don't get this. Everybody's saying the Raptors need a point guard. Just because Emmanuel didn't play against Cleveland doesn't mean we need a point guard. It's like you just forget that dude's on our team. We've invested money in him. He's our starting point guard. He's a point guard. I don't understand why everybody says we need a point guard because we don't. And it's just bullshit. Now, the two things they do say is like, okay, they need a point guard and they need a lob threat, or not a lob threat, but just a backup center. Now, I agree with that one. That is definitely right. That is definitely right. But the other side of things, it's like so stupid. I'm just like, I'm sick of the gaslighting. Stop gaslighting us with BS, American media places, because I mean, if we had Emmanuel in that series with Cavs, it would have been a totally different series. I honestly would think, because this is the main reason why. Forget about whether Emmanuel is a good enough defender to stop Harden and Mitchell. Forget about that. Shed wouldn't have been overused. That's part of it, because Shed had to play a very heavy role, much bigger than what he's supposed to be doing in his second year, because Emmanuel was out. And we had to lean on him more heavy. If you get Emmanuel in there on the regular time, then Shed's not as worn down and he can be more effective in the backup minutes. So this is not an issue. It's funny that they make this up just because a guy was hurt and didn't appear in the 7-game series, because that's what this is. It's as simple as that. The Raptors invested in Emmanuel. Is there a problem with Emmanuel? No, there's not. Sure, maybe he's had some bad luck with more injuries in his career ever than any point of his career, whether it's as a young person, a high school or college, or in the NBA. He's had more injury bad luck with us, specifically last year, not this past year, but the year before, where he missed a huge chunk of the year. I mean, that's the thing that people got to realize is we do have a point guard and we're good. And even what I was trying to say yesterday before I kind of got cut off about Scotty Barnes being an auxiliary point guard in there. Look, there's nothing wrong with reverting to Scotty being point guard for stretches of time if it's necessary. That's just the luxury of having that Swiss Army knife named Barnes, because he can do it all. He can do that if we need him to. So I just don't get this whole premise. And the other thing is I don't like how they're pushing 6'4" point guards on us. All right, it's one thing if these guys can shoot and they're dead eyes. But even if they're dead eyes, I mean, that could be helpful to the team. They're still undersized and they're probably going to be a defensive liability on the court. I think that Dan Tolzman and Bobby Webster have been very clear. And this is a standard that they held with Masai Ujiri when he was still in the front office with them, is that we want two-way players. We don't want a guy who's good at just one end. We want players that can play both ends effectively and be good for us on both ends. And they have been building a team with that kind of stuff in mind. You can see it in the way our guys are. Defense also, not just offense guys. So we know the archetype. We know the kind of person that the Raptors like to draft. They like to draft a good citizen, a hard worker, somebody who's a team player, somebody who's a two-way. These are essential to be on the list for the Raptors to even consider. Now, the strategy of Bobby Webster is maybe very likely to be similar to what he did with Jacoby Walter a couple years ago. We have the 19th pick. It's the exact same pick we picked Jacoby at. Now, that summer, Jacoby Walter had been projected all over the place. He had been projected in the top 10 in a lot of mock drafts. But that's the thing. Perception is not all the same in everybody's minds and places. Different people have different perceptions. And, well, Jacoby Walter wasn't a top 10 pick to a lot of other teams, and he fell all the way to 19, and we got him. And we were delighted because we could see what Walter is at this point, right? You know, that's the thing. It's not necessarily about who we think they should get. It's about what happens in the draft and what opportunity arises. Because, look, there's going to be some players, and there's a particular few that I'm talking about today that may not be mocked at 19, but higher. But the possibility of them falling to 19 like Jacoby Walter did is there also. And I want to preface that when I say some of these picks, because some people say, well, Lex, that guy's definitely not going to be at 19. Well, how the fuck do you know? Because Jacoby Walter wasn't supposed to be at 19 either. So that's what I would preface with saying this, is because it's like, oh, you're going to say Yaxel Lendenberg? That dude's not going to be at 19, man. How do you know? He could fall to 19 somehow, some way. That's what people got to realize. And that's why it's not set in stone. That's why nobody should be going Ed O'Bannon or Jalen Suggs or some shit like that. You shouldn't have your heart set on one particular player, Raptors fans, going into this draft. Because, you know, if Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman were like that, they'd be all screwed up. And they'd screw up the draft, too. You have to be on your toes. You have to be analyzing in the instant after each of the picks come off the board and seeing how the lay of the land changes by the time it gets to 19. Now, one of the subjects we keep talking about, too, is will the Raptors change their pick? And Dan Tolzman was very open about this on Tuesday when he did his press conference. He said, well, the thing about this year is there's a premium price to move around in the draft. And that sounds like it's like, okay, it's not worth it this year because teams are asking for ridiculous things if you want to try and move up in the draft and get a higher pick. And who knows what they are. Maybe they're first-round picks in other years. Maybe they're strong rotation players that are already on your team, stuff like that. But from the sounds of it, Dan Tolzman made it sound like, yeah, we're not going to be moving our pick. We're very happy at 19, and it's a premium price to move around in this draft this year. It's a premium price. So that's not worth it then. You know, are we desperate? Do we really need to reach and jump up to get a player? No, I don't believe that. Now, a lot of experts are saying this also, and Dan said this himself on Tuesday, that it's really a top 12 tier that is pretty set. Like a lot of the people that are from 1 through 12 are pretty much known, and they're probably head and above and shoulders of after that. But after 12, it's pretty wide open. And that's why I always make the argument about like best player available could be flexible by position need because it's a plateau. It's kind of like this pool after 12 is like, it's a crapshoot in some ways. Sure, you could bust out and make the wrong decision and get a bust, but you could also get a home run like a Siakam or a Walter or an Anunoby. So that's the whole thing right here. The expertise of our scouting staff and the brilliance of Bobby Webster is what's going to figure out this is the right person for right here. And this is the value here. This is the value here. Now, can that Venn diagram circle around and go around a positional need that we want, and specifically the one that Dan expressed on Tuesday, a lob threat, shot blocker, rim runner, rebounder. That's what he wants. That's what he said outright in the interview. He did not describe anything else in that interview on Tuesday. That's the most specific thing he said that this team needs. And I completely agree with him. I think that and that's who I'm going to present today is some of the best options for at 19 and 50 that fit that category. There will not be any guards on my 10-player list today. I am not promoting Bennett Sturts or any of these guys. I'm not promoting any of the guards, Barron, Fillion, none of them, because I don't want the Raptors to draft a 6'4" guard because we don't need that. We really don't need that. In fact, that would be wasting the draft pick, in my opinion. If they want to do something funny at 50, creative, like they did with Shed, which was an amazing pick in the second round, I'll trust them then. But in 19, I think because of the way this draft is and the way that there is a pretty good talent pool of long-armed kind of rim runner kind of guys, that this would be smart to get that position because they are definitely there in this draft. There's definitely a range of 6'9" to 6'11" guys with 7-foot wingspans that can be lob threats and glass cleaners and people that can go get rebounds and stuff like that and play very good defense too. That's what we need. We need more of that. We need more depth up front. Just in case Yak's back isn't totally right this year either, just in case there's any kind of issues with any of our bigs, just to have that depth. In some ways, this guy should be able to maybe possibly shoot threes. That would be good. That seems like a thing that most fans want. That is an aspect that is very wanted. In some ways, you don't want to draft a player that can't shoot, right? Although you can draft players that can't shoot in their scout coming out of the draft, and then they can shoot all of a sudden, Scotty Barnes. So, it's a weird thing. In some ways, sometimes when they say in the scouts for the draft, this guy, he's great, he can do all this, but he can't shoot. That's actually an attractive player because you can get people better shooting techniques through coaching, and they can become a better shooter in the NBA. They really can. So I'm going to start checking in with y'all on the chat, and I'd love to hear y'all's opinions on who we should draft. This is definitely a scout of the day kind of day, but we were talking about the draft and who should we be drafting. So I'd love to hear y'all's opinions on who you like the Raptors to pick at 19, and I'm going to present my choices very shortly in a second. So let me just go ahead and read a couple comments first. Trevor J's words of wisdom right off the top. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you so much. Blessings to the Jones family. Becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes. We change as people as we go through our lives. And, not everybody is supposed to be with you their whole life. In some ways, the whole idea of marriage and being married to one person for your whole life, that's such a hard thing to do. But if you really love somebody, you'll go through their whole entire life with them, even as they change, because they can change even later in life. And they'll be like, whoa, you're not the same person I married. But you know what? I love you and I'm willing to adjust with you. That's the whole thing. You can say goodbye to people, but if the people really want to hold on to you and keep you in your life, they will adjust with you as you change in the natural way you want to. So this is great words of wisdom. It's true. And some of those people that are gone, they were supposed to be gone. And that helps you to become more yourself. There you go. Blessings to Trevor Jones and his family and all the Raptor Freak families. That's right. He's saying that the Chicago Sky lost a good game by 1 point last night. I'm not surprised by that. They're a bad team. Smooth saying this, Trae Young opting out of his Washington deal. Yeah, the rumor is even though he's opting out, he's most likely to sign back with Washington still. So I wouldn't listen. In some ways, look, I'm going to say this. Trae Young is a dead end. Nobody on Raptors Nation should covet wanting Trae Young on our team. He's a dead end. He's a player that will get in the way of your success, and he's fool's gold. So any Raptors fans who have any designs of bringing Trae Young to Toronto, leave them alone. Just don't even have him. Just don't even have him. He's probably going to re-sign with Washington from what I'm hearing. That's the most likely choice. Now, there may be some crazy dumb team that wants to invest in him, but that'll be their mistake. But we don't need to go anywhere near Trae Young. He's pretty much proven who he is in the NBA. It's not like he's going to change at this age, and he's not a winning formula. In fact, the Atlanta Hawks were way better with him immediately after he left. And that says a lot, right? That says a lot right there. Mr. Greg is back in the chat. Guys, I want to apologize. This week, there's been technical difficulties on my show. We have them from time to time. When you do this show every single day for a whole year, all the time, for years now, there's going to be glitches and problems. And I think the issue that's going on right now is the internet connection out here is changed because there's more people out here in the summer enjoying the countryside where I live, and the internet systems are a little bit more overloaded because there's more usage through the networks out here. So I think that that's the issue that's going on with my internet in the couple of times that I've been booted off in the last week, Sunday and yesterday. Not to mention, it's weird that they were both days of important Raptors, like their birthdays, RJ and Emmanuel. So I want to backtrack, and because I didn't get to say the proper birthday to Emmanuel quickly yesterday. We love you, Emmanuel. I wrote you that Christmas carol on Christmas this year. It was such a joy to sing it, and I appreciated you coming through and making this song true. So yeah, let's not forget Emmanuel quickly is on our team when we're analyzing whether we need a point guard for this draft. Seriously. Yeah, Mr. Greg saying, I would say so-called experts and the powers that be in the U.S. recognize our weaknesses and hope that we fail to address it. You know, I liked your comment that you put in after the show got shut off yesterday saying that Mark Spears is one of the few American sportscasters that actually give us a fair shake and actually pay attention to us. I think that really is like this. You know, we're not broadcast down there hardly at all. And these NBA people, they have a lot of things to cover. And maybe they love covering the Lakers, or maybe they love covering their home team where they are. But the Raptors are not getting on their radar as much. Maybe they see them when they play the team that they cover, and that's it. But they aren't really understanding us down there. And once again, why do they want anything good for us? They don't. They never have. So I just caution Raptors Nation from taking any advice from Bleacher Report, especially ESPN, especially The Ringer, Yahoo Sports. It doesn't matter who it is. These mock drafts and these analysts don't want good things for us. In fact, you can historically go back every single year with the draft. If you can go look at all the articles, you will see a consistent level of undersized players being mocked towards us. In fact, the Yahoo draft that I was looking at yesterday, which I'm going to use a little bit today, has us drafting an undersized guard at 19 and an undersized forward at 50. It's like, okay, they want us to get a 6'6" forward at 50, according to Yahoo Sports. It's like, why can't we just get a 7-footer or a 6'9" guy? But no, you want to peddle a talented 6'6" guy to us. Now, Colin Murray-Boyles was not recommended by me last year because of his size. He was undersized, but I missed the whole thing about his analytics and the special sauce about who he is and makes him who he is. I was rather had Asa Newell last year. He was actually the one I liked better, but obviously Bobby knew better than me, and that Colin Murray-Boyles was the better player to get because he's undersized. I'm just sick of the Raptors short stacking themselves with height because they keep getting undersized guys. And that's why I'm like, let's stop getting undersized guys, because we want to see eye to eye with them, like Nick Nurse used to say, is I want a team out there that can see eye to eye with the opponents and not be short like the Tempo are in the WNBA. So, yeah, it's this kind of stuff. They don't want good things for us. Yeah, Smooth saying this, leaving $49 million on the table. Well, I mean, I don't understand the whole thing. I don't understand how he had that contract in the first place. He's still open to returning to Washington, but will listen to offers from other clubs. Yeah, I think that it's pretty much likely he's going to find that nobody else is going to give him as much money as Washington will. And he's just going to stay a Wizard. You know, it's kind of funny. He was embracing going to Washington so bad as a new beginning in the middle of the season last year when he got traded there. And now all of a sudden he's opting out and making it seem like he's trying to get out there now. I don't know. I think he's likely to be a Wizard next year still. Watch. Yeah. Smooth saying possibly Miami bound. That's if they can't get Giannis. Yeah, that could be true too. I don't know if Miami should do that, though. That may be a dumb mistake. Honestly, I'm going to say this right now. Whoever ends up with Trae Young's not going anywhere. He's basically a thing that'll get you to spin your wheels. and not go anywhere. And that's been proven in Atlanta. Sure, you can get to a certain point. You can get into the playoffs. You can do this, but you're not going to get to the ultimate prize with Trae Young on your team. You're just not. He's a losing player. He's a detriment on defense. And he's honestly such a streak shooter that he's not worth it on offense. So he's way more overhyped than he should be in some ways. He really is. I don't give him any respect. Let's just put it that way. All right, Trevor J has brought up something that's actually my Raptors Redder of the day. This has happened sometimes. All right, this is Kyle 993 on Raptors Reddit. He's reporting that Mark Stein is talking about the Mavericks head coach search. That's Masai Ujiri is looking for a new coach to replace Jason Kidd, and it sounds like the number one person on his list is our assistant Mahalea. That Jama is he has designs on him. Now this makes total sense. Jama is a Masai guy. They do Giants of Africa every summer together. And Jama is a touted top assistant that's in line to get a head coaching job in the NBA at some point. So, he was in the running to get the job instead of Darko, actually, when we hired Darko. So I can see this happening, honestly, guys. Now, we just found out that Jama is an assistant coach for Gordon Herbert on the Team Canada team. So he's involved in our Team Canada team. But I could see Masai poaching Jama from Darko's coaching staff and putting him down there. Now, in some ways, is this a big deal? Well, his vibes. He's a good, positive dude. He's awesome. You saw in the Open Gym episode last weekend, him and Scotty goofing around in one little segment. The other thing I would say is Jama was not one of Darko's guys. Jama was a holdover or brought back in by Masai because he didn't have a prior working relationship with Yakovich before Toronto, Mahalea. So, the other guys are all more Darko guys like Andrew Jones, Evo, Pat Delaney, Vin Bagnani, Mary Andrade. These are all people that kind of were around Darko for years before, but not Jama. And same with James Wade. He wasn't either. James Wade was brought in from the WNBA by Masai because he thought he was really fun, like cool, that he was asking him questions. And he's like, you know what? You want to come an assistant coach for the Raptors? You can come up here. So I could see this happening. I think out of the three names they're naming, it is more likely that Jama will be the next head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. Micah Nori, he could be it too. He's been the second coach for Chris Finch in Minnesota in recent years, and he's been somebody that was around Masai more in the Casey years. He was an assistant coach under Casey and somebody that Masai had been around here in Toronto for a long time. Royal Ivy's an interesting name too that's out there, but I don't think he's as likely. The former NBA player Royal Ivy. I really do think he's going to hire Jama and that Jama is going to be going to Dallas, guys. Now, is this a big deal? Is this going to be like what they said? Oh, he's going to poach people from Toronto. I don't know if this is a huge deal. It will mean that Darko will have to hire a new coach, I'll bet. And that may be interesting to see how he changes it. He's been very fortunate that he hasn't had to change his team at all, hardly, in the first 3 years of him coaching the Raptors. So his coaching staff. We'll have to see. So yeah, thank you to Kyle 993 for bringing this up. Masai Ujiri is looking for a new head coach to replace Jason Kidd, and it looks like our guy Jama, our Canadian assistant coach, is at the top of the list. So yeah, this is a big deal. Seymour saying Washington organization is a mess. They've got all these young studs, these great young players. And in some ways, it's an interesting way to watch them because this has happened in different sections of the Wizards' history where they stockpile a great young core and they still fumble it somehow. Like you could think back. Let's go way back to while they were still the Bullets. And they had Weber and Howard and Mirzan and that team. And that team was actually starting to compete. What happened to that team? Why did that team go nowhere? Chris Webber went somewhere else. Juwan Howard went somewhere else. And that team just kind of fell flat. Rasheed Wallace was on that team too. Yeah. There's been periods where Washington was starting to get it together and actually had some promise. There was those Bradley Beal, John Wall years that they were beating us in the playoffs in the early 2010s Why did that never take off? Well, I could tell you because both Wall and Beal are loser players like Trae Young that will never win anything. That's why. So, ah, in some ways, it's like I'm curious to see how Washington fumbles this new young core that they have. Because in some ways, this new young core is more promising than any of the ones they had before, rivaling like Weber and Wallace and Howard from way back. Seriously. Well, they had Calbert Chaney too, remember? Yeah, I think that this young core is so promising with our Maple Barnes, Keyshawn George, Will Riley, Sar. They've got some real pieces there, but I have no confidence in them. It may be that they don't have a front office or a coach, but they have the players and there's no direction, and they fumble this still. So we'll have to see. They are. Yeah, they'll fumble this. They'll fumble the number one pick. You're probably right, Seymour. You're probably right. Whoever Bobby brings in, I'm all in. This is the right attitude. And I think that a lot more people on Raptors Reddit are saying this. It's like, yeah, the way you're acting about how much you really want Bennett, if you're disappointed and he doesn't give that, don't fall out. Don't crash out. Don't act stupid if the pick call at 19 this year isn't what you expected and you fall out and crash out like a toddler in the food court at the Eaton Center because they didn't get a A&W teen burger. I wanted a teen burger, mommy. Man, they're kicking the ground. Don't be like that, Raptors fans. Seriously. Let the man do his job. He lives on the moon. You don't. You don't understand what it's like to be an NBA GM. All the unwritten rules, all the politics, all the shit that you don't have to see or deal with. You just go on your computer and do mock drafts and play video games and think you know everything about drafting and strategy and rosters and shit like that. You don't know any of the underlying real world of sports and the politics and maybe even some of the stuff that he has to deal with because we're Toronto. That's the thing, casual fans just can't get. And that's why y'all were wrong when we drafted Damon Stoudemire under Isaiah Thomas and you wanted Ed O'Bannon. That's why you were wrong when you were mad that Scotty Barnes got drafted our team instead of Jalen Suggs. So this has been a consistent thing in past years. I wasn't totally thrilled when we drafted Colin Murray-Boyles last year instead of Common because I was on that Malawak train as far as I was like, man, we get this center. Let's get Common. I want Common. And then he was there and we didn't take him. And he went the next pick after us. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Why did we take Colin Murray-Boyles? He's undersized. I didn't know better than Bobby. See, this is an adult, mature way to react to this. It's like, well, we'll see. And I was very pleasantly wrong. Very pleasantly wrong. I didn't want him to draft Grady, but I was right on that one, it looks like. See, that's the thing. That's the thing right there. That's the thing right there. That's right. Yeah, let's see what else we're saying here right now. Greg is saying this. I'm sure there are people that will disagree with me, but I feel the same way about Ja Morant that many feel about Trae Young. No, he's on my list too. You're exactly right. He's a dead end. Because look, the body can be as talented and athletic and just amazingly gifted, but if the mind is all screwed up, the body won't be directed right. And that's a huge problem with a lot of players from this recent generation. You could look at Zion. You could look at Ben Simmons. You could look at Ja Morant. Yeah, these are players that aren't doing things right up here. And that's why in some ways you value players that do it right like Shed and Walter and Colin Murray-Boyles, the way that they do it up here, Scotty Barnes. That's a prerequisite. And in some ways, without having the FBI analyzing skills of Bobby Webster, of a personality, and not really knowing about these guys that I'm about to talk about, there may be insight that they had to have from checking out their character. This is the thing. They didn't work out Jacoby the year we drafted him, but they did their homework on his personality. They did their homework on the way he treats people. They did their homework on how he listens to his coach at Baylor. They did their homework on what kind of kid he was. And they said, well, he's not like Ja Morant. Let's draft him. It can be as simple as that. Character matters to the Raptors. And that may be the difference between Heat culture and Raptor culture. Is that, Heat culture is similar to Raptor culture. It's very aggressive, get after it, work hard kind of like mentality Pat Riley has down there. But he doesn't care if you're a bad guy or not. We care about whether you're a good guy up here. We do. So it's like you have to circle that in the Venn diagram of everything. Talented at this, two-way. He's a good dude. He's going to work hard. He's not going to get the bag and sit on his ass and be comfortable just getting in the NBA and making money. He's going to work because he has the Rosen code. And every year he's going in the summer to make himself better, to come back the next year to be improved and help to the team at another level. These are all ingredients that are essential to be a Raptors draft pick. And this is why they hit more often than they miss. So I'm going to go ahead and present the guy who's on the picture right there for the start. This guy says he loves the picture. He's my favorite for 19th pick. And that's Chris Cenac Jr. of Houston, 6'11". And, well, he's a little young, but this is the thing. He's 19. But why not we pick a 19-year-old at 19? You know, that's kind of what we did with Jacoby, right? So I would say this, you know, Cenac, his wingspan is amazing. 7'5" wingspan. And you see his athleticism in some ways, and his highlights. I've seen a toughness to take contact. I've seen a soft touch. You know, there's a lot of things about Chris Cenac that are very attractive. And, you know, he may be slightly a project, but also at the same time, if he can stay out of foul trouble, he could be out there and play a lot. You know, in some ways, where is he on the list of, you know, guys like our Cameroonians that came through, Koloko and Shamshe? In some ways, we want that long arm blocking threat, that we want that rim protector. We also want a guy who can run the floor. And if we throw it up in the air, like Scotty wants to throw up in the air, he can throw it down. You know what I'm saying? Now, Cenac is interesting in the mock drafts. He can go somewhat in the high teens, but he's also gone low as far as like right here on this Yahoo mock draft, which is what I'm looking at. He's at number 22 here, and we're picking at 19. So, yeah, they say he's a freakish athlete and he's a glass cleaner. That sounds like stuff we could deal with. The name lob threat. Is Chris Cenac going to be able to get up there with his long arms and take a Scotty Barnes pass and throw it down from the side? I think so. So, yeah, he is my best choice. He is my number one choice for 19. And it sounds like a lot of people are agreeing with me in different places and other places. Some places are mocking him at us now because they're hearing the noise. You know, some people are actually listening to the Raptors assistant GM on Tuesday. He said lob threat. What's around there? You know, Cenac, they have been talking about him up in Toronto. Maybe he's going to go there. Now, the big thing is, I make this question mark with him is his character. Is he got what I just described 5 minutes ago? Is he going to be on the end of the tip like John Morant, or is he going to be on the end of the tip like Jamal Shed? Because that may be one of the underlying determining factors about who we pick at 19 is that. Because honestly, looking at these guys that are in this draft overall, which I did a lot of work yesterday doing on this, I found that there's a lot of what we need is available, and there's different guys to choose from. So I don't think there's any reason why the Raptors should be picking anything other than a forward/center at 19, because there's definitely an abundance of these kind of dudes around. And even if somebody like, all right, I'll name my top three guys real quick. And, you know, Kareem Lopez was on my list, but I took him off. Part of the reason why I took him off is because I don't think he's going to be at 19. Now, he has been mocked to get there at sometimes, and he's a player I would be very happy we take, but he's also a little bit older. Well, actually, he's not that older. It's just that he's been playing overseas, and he's been playing professionally since 14 in Spain and Australia as the best ever Mexican player in the history of basketball. That's what they're calling him. And there's a lot of very interesting skills and Swiss Army knife kind of stuff about him. He's a good defender, that's for sure. He's a really good shot blocker. But he is a little undersized for the NBA. And I don't totally trust players that come from the NBL. It's partly because that league is so much slower than the NBA in some ways. And some of the highlights that he looks really good from over there won't totally translate over here. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't leave him on the list. I had him on there, and he was one of my favorites leading up to today. And if he was available at 19, we'll see if he is or not, because he's not getting mocked. He's getting mocked very high. You know, if Bobby took him, I wouldn't be upset. But he's not officially one of my five. He's really not. He's really not. But I do have the two Michigan guys right after Cenac, and that's Lendeborg and Morez Johnson Jr. Both of them are 6'9". Lendenborg is 23, and that in some ways is, some people are saying, a detriment. But if you think about it with the Raptors, if you got Yaxel Lendenborg because he fell to us at 19, you would be very happy because he has been mocked in the top 12. And if he lands in our lap at 19, I think Bobby's taking him because, he's already got good size and he's probably a open the box, ready to play player next year, like Colin was. His age is more in the timeline with the players on our team already. He's 23. He's going to be right in the middle of the age of the guys that are around him. In fact, Grady and Jacoby will be younger than him. So it's like, there's something about the fit of Lendenborg at 19 if he drops there. But that's an if, right? That's an if. But he is on my list. And that Morez, he's probably going to go after him. Now, Morez has been described as being kind of like Isaiah Stewart, as a very defense first kind of guy, just a physical guy, just a bruiser kind of dude, and a great rebounder. In some ways, I don't mind him getting him like that, but there is some skills otherwise for his offense in some ways too. So I definitely like the two Wolverines that aren't Mora, but those two guys. And who's to say who will drop where, between Cenac, Lendenborg, and Johnson Jr. But any of those three choices are premium, as far as I think, for 19, and justifiable at 19, and very, very good picks for the Raptors at 19. Now, I am a little weary. Wish Michigan's kind of like Duke before. Which one of these guys is actually the dude? Like Kiki Rice is the lady from UCLA this past year. Who's the dude that is really the core or the good one between Lendenborg, Mara, and Johnson Jr.? I don't know. But they all seem like they're very, powerful, the three of them. And they'll definitely be top picks, first round picks in this draft. My fourth pick is Alan Graves, and we just scouted him and recently. The thing about Alan Graves that I really like is that he's an analytics darling. And if we're going to follow the pattern of CMB from last year, he would be the pick because he is killing it on the analytics. If analytics are actually very good for figuring out who's good and who's not, Alan Graves is the one. He's the one. Even though he's a little shorter than the other players that I'm listing today, he's just got all kinds of stuff. He's a fantastic defensive player. He's a rebounder. He's got a very good basketball IQ. And he's also got versatility, much like Scotty Barnes and some of the other players on the Raptors already. So you can kind of move him around and play him in different ways around things. So I do like Santa Clara's Alan Graves. He is one of my 5. So it's the two Wolverines, Chris Cenac and Alan Graves. Now, if we want to go with somebody who's more traditional center, I'm going with my Estonian guy from North Carolina, Henry Virsar. Virsar is 6'11", 22 years old. But the thing I like about Virsar is he's got a three-point shot. In some ways, his biggest weakness is his body is weak and he's skinny. But in some ways, he does seem like he has a frame where he could put some muscle on, and he gets into weight training with the Raptors. He could get going. One of the detriments about Henry is that he is going to probably be a project. He may not be fresh out the box, ready to go to help us in certain ways. But, if you think about Coloco's year with us, he could be a very effective bench role player coming out as a shot blocker in a three-point threat combination. And the great thing about him, too, is because he's not so heavy, he's quick up and down the court. I like him way better than Hannes Steinbeck. I really, really do. And it's not just because I'm biased towards a man who's Estonian like me. It's because I like the three-point shooting, and I like in some ways, some of the intelligence he showed for the Tar Heels this past year. So those are officially my 5 picks for 19. Chris Cenac Jr. of Houston, Yaxel Lendenborg of Michigan, Morez Johnson Jr. of Michigan, Alan Graves of Santa Clara, and Henry Virsar of North Carolina, with an honorable mention to Kareem Lopez if he just happens to fall somewhere near us. Now, I know a lot of y'all like Jaden Quaintance, and we talked about him a bit on this channel, but I'm worried about his ACL stuff. I am. Now, if we take Quaintance out of Kentucky at 19, I won't be upset because that means that Bobby, the medical staff, and the Raptors have done their homework and they are comfortable with drafting a guy who may be slightly damaged goods. This is similar to OG. OG was hurt in his last year in Indiana, and a lot of people were cautious about not drafting him that year. And that's why he fell in that draft, and we got him so far in the first round. The Raptors did their homework. They understood the injury, and they understood, well, he should be fine. He just needs to recover and come back. But to me, an ACL is a little bit different. It's a tough injury to come back from. And God forbid that Brittany Sykes has an ACL problem right now. Let's just put that as an aside real quick. That's a different kind of injury because in some ways, look, they haven't shown Jaden enough after it, post ACL. So we don't know how his speed and his ability to play has been changed from the injury yet. So it's a little bit of a mystery pick. But I would say trust in Bobby. If he picks him, he's done his homework and he feels comfortable with Dr. Alex that they can make it work with him. But that's why I didn't put him in my top 15. My top 5 is because I'm a little wary of the ACL and also the fact that he hasn't really come back and shown who he is after it. So, yeah, that's my official top 5 picks for 19 right there that I just gave right there. And there's other guys that are actually fit in there too. We could start talking about people like Koa Pete and other people that are right around there that are actually pretty suitable to be picked also in some ways, but maybe a little bit of a reach from that position at 19. You know, maybe another name that I would be okay with that is in that top round that could be good for us that I looked at that I kind of like was that's if they fall to us because that's the whole thing. What was the other guy that I was thinking that might be good? Maybe it's a Ment. Not really a Ment, no. I mean, if we really had to, we got Steinbach. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I've heard a lot about LeBaron Fillin Jr. In fact, on this Yahoo draft, they have him mocked to us. But I don't see what's the point. I really don't see what's the point. I really don't see what's the point there. You know, he's only 6'3". I would like to get if we're going to get another guard, let's get somebody who's bigger and has a lot more to do on the court in certain ways. All right, let me get back in the comments with you guys and see what you guys are saying here. Let's see. Yeah, so Shaq Lindsay approves of the Chris Cenac Jr. picture and being the number 1 there. James is saying this might actually be the year we finally get a center. I mean, you know what? It's kind of like as centers are evolving, you know, does it have to be an actual 7-footer? There's nobody really listed at 7 foot in some ways. Most guys are just at 6'11". In some ways, you know, the position has changed. You know, is Sandro a true center in the NBA now? It's getting closer to being like a true center at this point. You know, there's bigger centers like Joel and Jakob in the league, but more and more teams are kind of fudging things and getting away with playing a power forward / center who's usually around 6'10" or 6'11" and not a true 7-footer. You know, I think it's very likely that you're right, that we will probably get a center either at 19 or 50 because there's some really good quality in the second round, even if there's slightly projects to be putting on the roster to start cultivating and start to develop for years to come. You know, it'd be ideal if we could get somebody who's fresh out the box and ready to go and ready to jump in just in case there's any issues with Yak's back. But, you know, usually the case is, and this is something we've said on this channel in recent years, the reason why the Raptors don't draft centers is because they're projects, is because they take time to come around and get there. And their move is usually, as Dan said, is like, if we're not going to draft the person we want for a lob threat in this position, we will find them in free agency. And that's what Mamukelashvili was last year. Is like a free agency pickup to bolster our front line with a proven guy who's already been in the league for a couple of years, understands the league, understands fouling in the league, and can be out in the court and stay out on the court and be able to help us immediately. Instead of, you know, investing time, you might have to go to 905 for a bit. Shamshay, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to watch your foul trouble, Koloko. You know, there's a lot of work for bigs to get NBA ready and be better. That's why they're always usually projects. So that's the thing we got to try and balance here. But I think we might be. This is right, James. This is right. Yeah, I definitely want to see your top 5 picks for 19 too, James. And even if you want to sneak a guard in there, we could do that. Yeah. Shaq Lindsay saying Chris may be raw, but he has all the tools. He has a fantastic frame. He has fantastic athleticism. And if his mindset is good and he has that Raptors quality to him that I've been describing as far as a character guy, a teachable guy, a fast learner, a high aptitude guy, a guy who's willing to get after it on defense, just like Scotty would, he'll fit in. That's the kind of player we want. And that's probably why, Bobby pulled the trigger last year with Masai while he's still here on calling Murray-Boyles. Because we've seen in the playoffs just how much of a destruction crew Barnes and Murray-Boyles was. So if we can get a third person that can be added with that kind of energy with those guys, look out. You're just adding more to our strengths and what we do. You know what I'm saying? We're just adding to that. Yeah. Mr. Greg saying, I remember about 10 years ago, David Aldridge, when asked who he hoped to see improve, said he would love to see the Raptors win because of their fan base. That's awesome. Yeah, I've always kind of liked David Aldridge. He was somebody that I always trusted, and when I lived in the States and before the Raptors were in prominence and stuff, he always seemed to be a fair reporter and somebody who has integrity. Let's just put it that way. That's part of the problem. There's a lot of people that are involved in the NBA that are talking heads that have no integrity and professionalism. Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, that's one of them right there. That's right. Yeah. Let's see. Seymour saying this. Is Toronto a market like Utah where players don't want to play but will come for the paycheck? Keontae George of the Jazz not signing the rookie extension. No, this is totally different. The reasons why people don't want to go to Utah is because, well, think about it. It's probably similar to the reasons why people may not want to be where you are. That's it right there, Seymour, out in Calgary. Yeah, in some ways, it's like part of it is there's no nightlife. There's no kind of like, okay, I'm in Utah. I'm an NBA player. I can go out and paint the town red with Drake's key. Like, I got the OVO experience in Toronto. That's a totally different thing. It's night and day between Toronto and Utah. In fact, they probably say, oh my gosh, I'd much rather play in Toronto than Utah. Because in Utah, it's boring. It's racist. It's a little bit like out in the middle of nowhere. And something that hurts that franchise. They were lucky they had Karl Malone, a crazy ass hick that drives a semi truck out there in Utah for those years that was carrying the Utah Jazz. In some ways, that's part of the reason why the Utah players need to go get Filipowski and some white guys and stuff like that. I'm not surprised by Keontae George not wanting to get an extension there. And I'm not surprised Ace Bailey or draft picks from this year are refusing to work out for them. Because it is not a destination. It's night and day. You come to Toronto, you get to go to Drake's house, and you get a key to the city where you can go do crazy things in nightclubs and beautiful restaurants and beautiful women and all kinds of lifestyle here in Toronto. It's just night and day. This is definitely not the same. This is definitely not the same. No, they'll come here. I think the guys here actually, we're also gotten the point, and the championship helped, is that we're a trusted franchise to help guys with their careers. That's another thing that a lot of players worry about is where am I going to land? Am I going to land in a franchise that I'm going to waste my time and just spin my wheels for a couple of years because they're not giving me good development and they're a losing team and their front office is idiots and their coach is not good? See that we don't have those problems here. We have a great front office with a great reputation and a great track record that shows, look at Fred VanVleet, look at Pascal Siakam. That right there gets people to come here. That right there puts a big, huge smile on Jacoby Walter's face and makes him very proud and very, very, very all about being a Raptor. That's why Shed is like, I want to be a Canadian. Right there. That's it right there. It's totally like that. Yeah. Shaq Lindsay saying Chris's measurements are incredible. Reminds me a lot of Chris Bosh. Yeah. You know what? That does make sense. Shaq Lindsay, I'm going to give you a dunk. I do kind of see it in some ways. Now, the thing is, hopefully he can be a little more bulked up than Bosh, and he can be a little more physical than Bosh. Bosh was a soft player in some ways. And, he shied away from contact, and it was the wrong pairing to put him with Bargnani. That's for sure, because the two of them were our two bigs, and, well, both of them were finesse bigs that did not want to have contact. So hopefully he could be more like Colin and Scotty with a Chris Bosh frame. That would be ideal right there, right, Shaq Lindsay? All right, thank you for supporting the channel, Shaq Lindsay. You got the original Jakob 42, my guy. You got the original Jakob number 42. That's awesome. On the dunk charts. That's right. That's a great observation. It makes sense. I just seen it too when you said it. Reggie Smooth Brown Man is saying, hopefully Jama gets the job with Dallas. It makes sense. At this stage of his career, he deserves the chance. I agree with this. I wouldn't get in the way, and I won't hate on this. You know, in some ways, like I said, Jama is the coach in waiting for Darko. If things had gone bad with Darko, it's very likely Jama would have jumped into the head coaching job for Toronto. Well, the job's coming there, and Masai's a great boss. He has a great working relationship. He gets to go coach Cooper Flag. Yeah, this would be a right fit. I think that he'd be night and day with Jason Kidd too. If you think about it, Jason Kidd probably is a stern, weird coach, and Jama is sunshine and light and very positive players coach. So it would probably set the whole thing. I think the main thing here about what Ujiri's trying to do is he wants somebody he can trust. He wants somebody he can depend on. He wants somebody he has a great rapport and working relationship with. And he didn't have that with Jason Kidd. So that was hasta la vista. So yeah, Jama would hit this. He would hit that mark right there. Exactly. And I agree with this. I hope he gets the job too. I'm not holding him back. The man's done a great job. And he's been sitting on great benches for a long time. And he's got championships to prove it. He's got one with us, and he's got one with Steve Kerr in Golden State. So yeah, if he gets this job, I won't be mad. But I'll be very curious to see how Darko replaces him, with who he replaces him, or if he even does. This could be a weird thing where Ed Rogers and Keith Pelley are coming to Bobby and say, yes, we know Jama left, but you don't need to replace him. We're just going to cut that job. You know, this is the age we're living in, right? Jobs are going away. They're not coming back, right? Yeah, so I could see that happening too, possibly. We'll see if Lex is right. Let's see. Seymour brought up that the Chicago Bulls have hired Tiago Splitter, former coach of the Portland Trailblazers. I think this is a fumble by Trailblazers front office, and they're another front office that's inept and really stupid. They have a similar situation to Washington. They have a nice, young, talented core, but they don't really have a good front office or coach. And I think that the fact that Chauncey got in trouble at the beginning of the year with the FBI and Tiago jumped in there and he did a pretty good job. I think Portland had one of their better years in the last year than recent years. There was some promise. There was some things building up, but the front office is so stupid they couldn't see that in Splitter. So they split up with him. Portland's loss is Chicago's gain. I think that he's going to do very well in Chicago. And good job in some ways. It's like, you know, Spurs fans are actually saying, why can't we just fire Mitch and get Tiago right now? That's kind of what they're saying. Spurs fans were like, man, we want Splitter here, the former Spur, for us. That's right. Shaq Lindsay saying this, we don't need a player who's a defensive liability. Point guards that are 6'4" and below don't help our defensive scheme, especially if you're undersized in the back end. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got a supremely talented guy in Quickly. Quickly is a small point guard, but look, man, look what he can do. The change of speed, the fact that he worked so hard this past season on being a traditional point guard, and totally people slept on this. Some people were wondering what the hell is going on with Emmanuel this year. I was like, dude, you don't see what he's trying to do? He's trying to cut out the old I'm the point guard off the Knicks bench that is an explosive scorer like Vinny the Microwave Johnson for the Bad Boys back in the day. And I'm pivoting to being more like Isaiah Thomas. And I'm switching the gears of being both the assist point guard and calling my own number. And when my team needs points real bad too. You know, we played better. You know, you can always tell a sign when Emmanuel's around on the court, we're better, right? When RJ's around and on the court, we're better, right? When Jakob is around and on the court, we're better, right? That's it right there. I think people saying that we need a point guard just conveniently forgot that Emmanuel Quickly was hurt for the playoffs and he wasn't out there on the court. I think that's what's happening here. It's so dumb, man. Yeah, Smooth saying that Washington is a black hole, man. Yeah, it's a – I don't know. People keep talking about relegation. I know they got Capital City Go-Go over there, right? What if you flip them one year and you just say, look, y'all are so bad. We're going to let the Go-Go be in the NBA this year. And Wizards, you're in the G League. That would be weird if they did that, right? Maybe they don't relegate that way. They just say, all right, Wizards, you and Gogo are still in the G League, but the best team from the G League gets to play in the NBA this year. The team that won the championship last year gets to play. I mean, that's a mess. They couldn't probably work that all out. It's just pie in the sky. But some people have talked about relegation. Relegation is the solution for teams like the Wizards. Make them scared as hell that they got to go to Mexico City and play the Capitans. You know what I'm saying? So we're saying careers go there to die. Yeah. Yeah. CJ McCollum, he's lucky. He went there and then he got second life after it. Where did he go? Atlanta? He had a good year in Atlanta last year once he got traded to Atlanta. He actually was doing some good stuff there. He's lucky. Mr. Greg saying they also had great teams in Baltimore who had great playoff series with the Knicks and went to the finals in 71 prior to losing the Bucks. Yeah, you brought this up before. I remember you brought up the Baltimore Bullets. And then like the Wizards with Wes Unseld, that's the heyday. I mean, in some ways, this is the sad thing about the Knicks winning the championship. They had just about as much success as the Wizards had, and just as long ago too. It's too bad that that's changed, and this bullshit's going on with the Knicks championship parade today. There's somebody bragging on the. This is how I know there's Knicks fans infiltrated Raptors Reddit, because somebody posted something yesterday talking about the Raptors championship parade is currently the most attended championship parade in NBA history, estimated 3 million people. Will the Knicks break that today with their championship parade today? Like they're going to try and do this. I don't know. They could. There's a lot of people in New York. And I don't know how they'll be able to add them up and count them all, get drones out there, or just like kind of estimate it like us. I'm sure that perception wars and stuff like that, they're going to poo-poo what we did. I mean, we had a very long parade route, which had a lot of people all along the whole entire thing. I don't know how long their parade route is. I don't know how you can estimate the people per square foot or something like that. How do you count this? How do we actually get raw numbers? I'm sure that they'll fudge it and they'll just say New York had more people than Toronto by the end of the day. But either way, who cares? We had a fantastic parade. I was a part of it, and I very much enjoyed that day myself. But yeah, this is something that already Knicks fans are going to say, yeah, we want to try and steal this from Raptors lore, as you all have the best and biggest championship parade ever in the history of the NBA. Some LA fans would argue against that, though. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes today with the Knicks championship parade. Don't hurt anybody. Don't act out and be hooligans like you have been, shooting guns in Times Square and bullshit like that. We had some issues at our championship parade, but it was because it was sweltering heat, a delay because the bus couldn't get out of the gate, and everybody had to be out there extra hours because it took so long. And Mark Gasol got shitty drunk. So funny, man. Let's see. Shaq Lindsay saying, yes, shooting is a priority, but at what cost and detriment will we pay? What we need is double down on what we have, which is defense. I agree with that to a degree. I mean, I can get why people think we need better 3-point shooters. I can get that. But even there's folly in that, because you can think about drafting guys just off their shooting. There's a liability somewhere there. And it could very well be that guy who's such a good shooter can't play anyway because their weaknesses in other areas make them unplayable. So that's the thing I'm always wary of. In some ways, we want to really find people that can actually cover all the bases and are sufficient to play from all aspects on the court. And that's the thing, because so often players just become useless all of a sudden because, well, you can't guard. You can't do this. So we can't play you. We can't even think about playing you because you're such a detriment when you are on the court. And in some ways, that's a little bit like Grady this past year, right? Grady, if he's not making his shot, he's not worth the playing out there because he's not giving us anything else on a major level that's supreme. You're not making your three, Grady. That's it. So what happens when you draft a really good shooter like Grady and they go cold and they can't make their shot all of a sudden? They're all fucked up. Are they worth having around anymore because they're one trick pony? That's the thing. They can say Grady's more than just a shooter, but yeah, what is he otherwise? A cutter, a scorer going to the basket? Well, why did he get benched by the end of the year? Think about that. That's right. Let's see. Reggie saying no one wanted the coaching there either. The current guy got it by default. Yeah, Brian Keefe in Washington. He's a company guy. He was an assistant coach under the coach from before. And it's true. It's like they just hired him back because honestly, people aren't banging down their door to try and come their coach their team. No, no, it's a tough position. And that's why reputations and what you're known for, they can be debilitating or encouraging. And that's why it's been important what Masai built here in Toronto. Because look, we were like the Wizards in the middle of the 2000s. We were. Rob Babcock and Richard Petty screwed our team up bad. And the coaching carousel we went through in the middle of the 2000s with Kevin O'Neill and all this kind of stuff, that really hurt our reputation around the league. And that was when the disrespect towards the Raptors was at all-time high. Vince Carter turned his back on us, went to the Nets. We made one of the worst trades in NBA history. And, everybody piled on us. Social media age was just starting, and thank God it wasn't ramped up like it is now because it would have been so bad. But we were like the Wizards pretty much up until 2012. And, we had to establish those positions to get them right. And Masai was Lewicki to Masai and keeping Casey too, and letting Casey get established and be a strong coach for us into Nick Nurse. Yeah, that was all part of it. And you need to get those departments right. In some ways, you can get all the best players in the world, but if you don't have a good front office and good coach, you're going to spin your wheels either way. You're going to spin your wheels either way. Yeah. Shaq Lindsay saying Chris Bosh came in the league and didn't have any perimeter game, nor was he known to be a physical presence in the paint. Chris Cenac Jr. has similar traits to Chris Bosh. Having the right coach will help him tremendously. Yeah. And I also like in Cenac's highlights that he's a passer, that he'll dop it off. He's got a little bit of good passing skills, and that is important for our team. That's something that has to be in there too. You can say Murray-Boyles is a good passer too. You've seen how he dumps off and he's unselfish and makes the right play. So that's on the checklist. That has to be on there too. As far as if you're going to play in Darko's system, you have to be unselfish and be ready to do the 0.5 offense where you're going to pass it around and you have to have some creativity and passing skills. And it looks like Chris Cenac's got that from what I've seen from his time in Houston. It won't hurt either that he comes from Kelvin Sampson's program and that Jamal's already here. That won't hurt at all. In fact, I would guess that Chris Cenac is already friends with Jamal Shed because they're Cougars. And, Shed's a very proud alumni of his school. And he probably keeps very close tabs with Coach Sampson and the people that are there after him. So that's part of it. You built in right there a connection right off the bat, somebody that Cenac can trust and somebody that can help guide him as a young leader on our team right away with Jamal Shed, because he's going to trust Jamal, and Jamal's going to love to work with him, another Cougar on his team, right? That's a part of it you could figure in that it will make the landing in Toronto if we do draft him easier, is that Shed's here to help him immediately. And Shed, Shed's a good teacher and instructor and a very, very good dude. And he will do it right to help him to the best, right? He'll do it the best right there. All right, let me see. I lost my place. Let me make sure I don't miss where I am. All right, here we go. Fiercey's here. Good morning, MJ. Good morning, fam, and happy Thursday. Good morning to our Raptor Freak Trivia champion for 2026. Her name's going on the trophy in the coming weeks. When I get it in the mail, I'll finally apply the trophy, new part to the trophy that adds Fiercey Salsera 2026 Raptor Freak Trivia champion. I'm going to keep saying this all summer. You earned your title. Now, we didn't do a classic card yesterday, so stay tuned to the show. We're going to do 2 classic cards at the end of the game, at the end of the show, and all you guys can try and get to be the leader, because honestly, right now it's 200 to 150 Seymour over Fiercey, and there's only 2 people that got got trivia points so far. So you could get, if they're hard cards, you could actually be number 1 in the Raptor Freak Trivia for 2027 starting out right now. That's right. That's right. Let's see. Shaq Lindsay saying New York is trimming their fat. 2 aprons is scaring them. Yeah, we'll see. That's often the case with, there's a couple of things that take a team apart. And this is part of the effect of having a different champion every year since the Raptors won, is that now the thing, and it kind of started with us, the other teams come to take your parts. Whether it's they like your assistant coach that's underneath the head coach and say, yeah, we want you to come head coach us because you just won a championship with this team. Or they like some of your players and you can't re-sign all your free agents after that year. Like, the Thunder have tough questions from last offseason and this offseason to keep the band together. The Nuggets, think about what happened to them after they won their championship with Bruce Brown having to take off and the team changing and not being exactly the same. This is why there's not continuity with dynasties or multiple championships for the same team and repeats. Is because like people said, the vultures come. They come and start picking parts off your team, whether it's an assistant coach to come be a head coach here, whether it's a player that's a free agent that you can't afford to re-sign because of things that are going on. So this is we're gonna have to see how the Knicks change this summer because of that. And this is there's a lot of talk already that Mitchell Robinson's out the door and gone, and he won't be a Knick next year. Yeah. Also, you also like Cameron Carr from Baylor. Yeah, I didn't really look at him too deeply. In some ways, I saw where he was in the range, and I was like, he may be there, may not. I don't like that he's only 6'5". That's the one thing I didn't really like about it. Is like, is he going to play like this? I think when I looked at him, when I scouted him, I remember what I said was, we already have a 6'5" guy with a long wingspan from Baylor. And in some ways, I thought there's too duplicitous between Jacoby Walter and Cameron Carr that we'd be playing like it'd be kind of like what the Raptors were doing when we were building the 6'9" machine before. It's like we're getting too many players that are exactly the same. We've got to get some variance. We got to get some diversity in the kind of players we get. And I feel like getting Carr from Baylor would be kind of like duplicating some things with Jacoby. So even though he's probably really talented, and I like the fact that he is got a 7'1" wingspan, I still am kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we already got Jacoby. Jacoby's known for being short, but with a huge wingspan himself, right? It's the same thing, yeah. But you're saying Jacoby and Cameron would be dangerous on the wing. I just feel like it's too similar, and we want to diversify things. I do like that he's got a good three-point shot, though. I will give that to Carr. Yeah, G's saying this. Good morning to G, the original Raptor Freak trivia champion. His name is right here for 2022 Raptor Freak trivia champion. Why do they always draft us the same prototype drafts? I'm telling you, there's a formula to how these mock drafters think. Some of it's like everybody has discrimination and favorites in their own mind, right? You discriminate or you have favorites or you favor this or stuff. In some ways, some of these guys who do these mock drafts year after year, they always think, okay, well, who's the undersized person that I have to put in here because they're in the mock draft pool? I'll just put it in on the Raptors pick here, and I'll justify it somehow with a little blurb that I write in here. Oh, this is why they need this person and this. And I always look at it and I'm like, this doesn't seem like that attractive. And then I see them do stuff like, it'll be a really good player, and they have them dropping in the draft for like the Celtics or the Lakers to take. And yeah, this is the player that we should take here. Like in this case, I'm looking at the Yahoo draft this morning, and they have Chris Cenac at 22 for the Sixers. Like they're catering to the Sixers just to get Cenac to them. Well, we're at 19. What if we want him before that? And we take him at 19. He's not going at 22 for the Sixers. It's almost like, yeah, let's put LeBaron Fillion for the Raptors here, even though they may want Chris Cenac more, but I want him to be on the Sixers more because I like the Sixers. I don't like the Raptors. So I'm going to drop Chris Cenac to 22. And it's perception wars. It's just like a way of like, all right, people read these and they'll think, oh, they're experts. They must know what they're talking about. Man, they told me this. And why did we do this at the draft? And then Raptors Nation's upset. Like the action that has happened years in the past. It's stuff like that. It's crazy. Trevor J saying this, WNBA will push their season to 50 in 2027. This is huge news. This is fantastic news. I like it. It's part of the wrinkle with the new CBA for the WNBA. You're going to get paid more. Well, we want to add some games. So they're going to add 6 games because it's a 44-game season right now. So it's going to go to an even 50. In some ways, I love this a lot. Traditionalists, just like with the NBA, they got mad when they added the 3-point shot. Greg could tell us about this. And it changed stats. That's why there's an argument like, Nick Nurse has often said, we don't need to shorten the NBA season from 82. We need to make the game shorter and cut them from 12-minute quarters to 10-minute quarters like the WNBA and a lot of other places like FIBA. That if you take just those 12 minutes off each game, no, 6 minutes, I guess. No, 2 times 4, 8 minutes. You take those extra 8 minutes off the game, there's a lot of cumulative time over the whole 82 game schedule. That's Nick Nurse's interesting idea about how to prevent and have less injuries is like, well, let's shorten the game times and make it 40-minute games, just like the WNBA, just like FIBA, just like the Olympics. So that could be a change that happens with the NBA just to try and save like injuries, but you're not messing with the 82 game framework. But once again, people like to look at stats across ages, and the more you change things like the length of your season, the more you got to kind of put asterisks and say, well, they did score the most points ever in a WNBA season, but we're now in a 50 game season. Trevor, I'm going to give you a dunk for bringing this up. I wanted to talk about this. I might have forgotten about it. So I appreciate you putting this up there. Yeah, this is a huge deal. It really is. Trevor, you got 66 dunks on the chart right now. Yeah, this is a big deal. I love it because it's more basketball for me. Players are probably like, great. But y'all are getting paid more. And in some ways, those owners would want to get that money back somehow, right? Shaq Lindsay saying, we don't need Anderson Sturts or OB1. Laugh out loud. All right, let me go ahead and talk about my second round picks real quick. At 50, if the Raptors don't select somebody big at 19 for whatever reason, and I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, even if they do draft somebody, I'm like, why did you do that? Because I learned from last year with Murray-Boyles. These are the people that would be suitable for the needs that I want for this team at the 50th spot around there. Now, some of them will probably be gone at 50, but this is another case where if they fell and they're available at 50 and Bobby and the crew can get them, that'd be fantastic. The first one I'm going to talk about is out of St. John's, and we did scout him on this show. It was Zuby Ejiofor, 6'8", 22-year-old from St. John's. Yeah, I think that he's a really good athlete, and I think that in some ways he would be somebody that could do some things to help us right away in certain ways on the court. So I do like Zuby. Zuby is a very strong player. In some ways, he's been compared to Precious and Okongwu for Atlanta. He's a great defender. He's got very, very strong IQ and knowing what he's doing out there. He's been a defensive player of the year in the Big East. So there's a lot of good stuff on his resume, and he's a solid, strong guy already at 6'8" with 7'2" wingspan. So I like Ejiofor as far as a possibility to be at the 50th pick. Now, he's mocked really high. He's like an early second round pick. So it's not likely he'll be at 50. But if he is and he's there, go ahead and get him, Bobby, is what I would say. My second pick for the later pick is somebody we looked at also, and that's Virginia's Ugonna Onyeso. I watched him extra time yesterday. He's lengthy. In some ways, he doesn't have as much muscle on his limbs, but he's got some real length to him. In some ways, he reminded me of Koloko with some of the stuff he could do out there as far as things. He's a great shot blocker. He's definitely a lob threat. And apparently, they described him as having that dog in him and getting out there. So I like the 7'5" wingspan of Onyeso out of Virginia. And I think he's an active enough player and gets up and down the court enough that he won't slow us down. That's another thing you got to think about when we're drafting a center. Is this a mobile person that can run and get in transition with Scotty and RJ like they like to do? And in some ways, Ugonna Onyeso is like that. And he has that combination of length. In some ways, he could be the reclamation of a Christian kind of player for us that we miss when Koloko got taken from us by the fitness to play panel. My third pick for at 50 is Felix Okpara out of Tennessee Volunteers, 6'10", 22 years old. I watched him some more yesterday too, and I found that with Felix, it's very interesting. Like he's got the lob threat, that's for sure. He's got a fantastic defense. It's funny, they compared them on Yahoo to Kem Birch. I was like, are you trying to sell this to me? particularly because I love Kem Birch, but I bet a lot of people would see the comparison to Kem Birch and be like, we don't want that guy. He's like Kem Birch, he's slow. Look, you got to remember who Kem Birch was when he was good, when he was on Orlando. When he came back and played for Canada this last time, he actually had his legs under him and he wasn't hurt anymore. When he played for the Raptors, he had nagging injuries that period of time, and he wasn't his full self. And then he got healthy, and he's actually been better in the recent years since he was on the Raptors. That's the low-key thing that people don't understand about Kem, is he got healthy finally. And I'm not surprised he's in the pool for Team Canada this summer for committal to this. So Felix, if he can be a little bit like young Kem Birch, he's also been compared to Diabate of Charlotte. And think about what Musa did this year on the Hornets. And think about the kind of X factor and just active, crazy motor, crazy player running all over the place, doing what he did this year for the Hornets and the resurgence of their team with Conca-Nipple. So that's what I think that Felix could possibly do for the Raptors out of Tennessee. So he's my third pick at 50, just possibly. Next, I'm going to talk about University of South Florida's Isaiah Nelson. This is a guy I don't even think we scouted, y'all. Y'all didn't bring him to me. And I like him. You know why? Because he's a dark horse. He's a little bit like Elijah Martin. He's coming from Florida, and he's somebody that is some ways is not on the radar with a lot of people because he went to University of South Florida. But yeah, Isaiah Nelson is 6'9". He has a 7'3" wingspan. He's 22 years old, and he is the Defensive Player of the Year for the American Conference. He's a lob threat, which is what we want. He's been compared to Robert Williams III and our guy Trace Jackson Davis. Those are his comparisons according to Yahoo. But I was watching his highlights yesterday, and I'm like, this dude's got fire. This guy's got compete. This guy's got get after it kind of stuff. So don't sleep on Isaiah Nelson. If Isaiah is there at 50 and the Raptors pick him, I'll be very happy. Seriously. And my final recommendation for Bobby and Dan in the front office, the Raptors for the draft, is Dylan Mitchell of St. John's. Dylan Mitchell of St. John's is a 6'8" forward. And, he's a little bit of a reach, but it's kind of like if everything's kind of gone this way, this is a guy that maybe you can get just in case or something like that. I don't know. The middle of the second round is going to be weird because at that point, it's really going to kind of be who's still kind of lying around in there at that point. But looking at Dylan, I found that he's kind of like interesting from a strong perspective. Like there's some things he can do that are very cool. Like he's a very good athlete, first of all. He's got the basketball IQ that the Raptors covet. And he's a very incredible team defender. So if you put him out there with Scotty and Colin, he's going to fit right in. He's going to fit right in. 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan. His wingspan is a little bit shorter than the rest of the guys I've chosen. And he's 22 years old. So yeah, he's out of St. John's. So yeah, those are my official 10 picks at both spots. 5 for 19 and 5 for 50. So at 50, I like 2 St. John's Storm guys, Zubi Ejiofor first, Ugana Onyeso of Virginia, Felix Okapara of Tennessee, Isaiah Nelson of South Florida, and Dylan Mitchell of St. John's also. So, yeah, I got 2 Wolverines for the 19 and 2 St. John's players for the 50. So let me know what you think of some of these players and what your picks are. This is the Thursday Think Tank. And if you have the number, you can call me on the phone and you can talk to me over the air. And tell me in person over the air your thoughts on the draft and who we should be looking at and who we should think about. That's right. Seymour saying those Caitlin shoes are hard as fuck. You like the Caitlin Clark shoes that dropped yesterday? It's cool. We play Caitlin Clark and she gets her first signature shoe the next day. Yeah, I seen them. They got like ridges on them. They're interesting. Shaq Lindsay saying this, drafting any one of those guys would be a slap in IQ and Shed's face. That's another thing. And Dan did say this though. Dan Tolzman on Tuesday at the Raptors press conference said, sometimes it's good to get guys that have the position that guys are already on the team because it lights a fire in their ass and makes them have to compete more. And I get that. Shed probably has had that effect on Emmanuel since he got drafted here. In some ways he pushes him to be better. He's like, look out, Shed's coming up underneath me. It's like Fred with Kyle before. I get that. I get that. In some ways, that can be detrimental, though. You could think about it with Jacoby and Grady. It's like, hey, Grady, we just drafted Jacoby Walter. Okay. Yeah, light a fire in your ass. Be better because Walter's coming. Okay. I'm nervous. Oh, no. He's better than me. I'm fucked. It can backfire. In some ways, it's good to have internal competition on your team and have people kind of on edge and really pushing themselves to be the best version because somebody's coming up underneath them. But it can backfire too. And I agree with this. I think that drafting LeBaron Philin or Bennett Sturts is a slap in the face to Manuel Quickly. And I don't agree with it. I think that we've invested the money in Quickly. Quickly has played with RJ his whole entire career, and they're both on the same team. And there ain't nothing wrong with Emmanuel on our team. There ain't nothing wrong. The only problem with Emmanuel that's been on this team is possibly that he's missed games. But otherwise, he's fit in. Scotty loves playing with him. He's hit game winners for us. He fits, and we see what he adds to our team when he's available. And in fact, a lot of us would make the argument we would have beat the Cavs in that 7-game series if Emmanuel had been available. So let's get that straight right there. Putting Shed in that position in the playoffs this year was not fair to him because he's a second-year player still, and there's still major holes in his game. He's a great backup point guard, but he's not a starting point guard. And having him have to do that to a degree in that series was part of the detriment to us. And that's why Emmanuel's very important. It's all in its right time. Emmanuel was a backup for a long time too, but he's an established point guard starter now. And that's why we don't really need to shake that up, is what I would say. Yeah, Dancing Baby Bins, thank you for the subscription and welcome to the Raptor Freak stream. This is the Thursday Think Tank, and we're talking Raptors draft today. Bennett Sturts plays at a pace that NBA players will gobble up. I just don't see him playing fast enough with his limited athleticism. I feel like in some ways there's these players that come up from the college that are darlings. They're just kind of get a mythology around them. Reed Shepherd is one of them. He's somebody that I'm like, this dude's going to be in the NBA and y'all think he's so good. Now, Fred swears by him. He's like his little protege right now. And Fred VanVleet talks all about how he's going to make Reed Shepherd this and that. And I'm like, see this. You guys are really pumping him up in certain ways. And I'm like, I don't see this. This dude's an NBA player. Like, look at him. He may have been an NBA player when Stockton and all them were playing way back in the short shorts. But this is a new NBA. The NBA's evolved. Basketball's evolved. There's so many good players around the world now. I hate to say it. You have to be a certain level of athleticism and maybe a certain height to actually be in the NBA at this point. I think this is what Dancing Baby Bins is saying right here. Do we want to waste a first-round pick on a guy who may be a liability and can't even play because he's a defensive liability on the court? That's the thing right there that you want to avoid because that's the way you make a bust pick. That's a way right there. Great first comment, Dancing Baby Bins. And I think that's a very interesting name. I'm trying to figure out what that's about. Shaq Lindsay saying this, I love Allen, but doesn't have the foot speed. So Allen Graves, you're not as big on how quick he is. Okay, noted. Mr. Greg saying Utah has one thing in common with the Lakers is the nickname does not fit. Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, if we could switch these all around the right way, New Orleans Jazz would be back there. I mean, could we put the Pelicans out in the Lakers? Like, can we switch these around a little bit? Let's do a 4-team trade of nicknames. And we will send the Jazz nickname back to New Orleans. We'll send the Pelican nickname to LA. And we'll send the Laker nickname back to Minneapolis. And we'll send the Wolves nickname to Utah. That would make more sense, right? Utah Timberwolves, Minnesota Lakers, Minneapolis Lakers, New Orleans Jazz, and Los Angeles Pelicans. Yeah, how you like that, Laker Nation? I just took your purple and gold and I put the Pelican in it. That's right. And we're going back to Mike and age. Minneapolis Lakers are back, baby, because that's where the lakes are. And the Jazz is on Bourbon Street, motherfucker. That's what we're saying today. That's right, Greg. I like that 4-team trade right there. I don't think that will ever happen. Utah Timberwolves, that makes sense, right? There's Timberwolves out there, right? All right, let's see. Dancing Baby Bins is saying the teams that only want you to develop on your second contract. The teams that only want you to develop on your second contract. Oh, man, I don't totally understand that comment. But, listen. I've been watching the NBA for a long, long time, and I've seen a lot of different kinds of busts. And you can be a sure thing, and you're completely a bust. We can look at things like Len Bias. We can look at things like Anthony Bennett. We can look at things like players that are so hyped up and just aren't really like the it doesn't connect in reality when they actually come to the league. So there's these players are in every draft. Some people talk about Zachariah Risache at number one. Like, what the fuck was that pick, Atlanta? You're crazy. In some ways, we can look at these. You just don't want to be this team that gets Sam Bowie, right? You just don't want to be this team that gets Sam Bowie. You just don't want that. Although Sam Bowie was an injury problem that made him a bust. He was actually a good player until he got hurt. But seriously, you don't want that kind of look back and say, man, they could have had Jordan, but they picked Sam Bowie. Yikes. Kaz is here. Good morning, Lex and Raptor Freak crew. Good morning to you, Kaz. We'll do our Raptor Freak Fantasy WNBA check-in real quick. So far this week, we got Kaz leading Reese's Nieces by a good little bit there. Fiercely saw Sarah, the undefeated record, is going against Logical Raptors Fanatic, and she's already doubled him up. I think she's in good shape. Smoking Aces has got a slight lead over James. James, you got to do a little bit more work to beat Smoking Aces, Jamie's team. We also got Cool Cat leading over Meredith. Meredith's having trouble lately. He's been stumbling the last couple weeks, but Coach Cool Cat is on top of it. And then I'm beating Kareem Thomas, the full ass, right now, but it's about a 50-point lead, and he has a chance to come back and get me still. Although he was whining that I've got a better week this week, and he thinks he's going to lose to me the other day. Thank you, Kaz, for supporting the channel and being here today. That's right. Fiercely saying, saw the list of centers who are free agents. Not that many are appealing. Maybe Day'Ron Sharpe, Mitchell Robinson. I don't want Mitchell Robinson on our team. He's on the official don't bring to the Toronto list for me. There's certain players in this league I do not want to ever be in a Raptors jersey, and Mitchell Robinson is one of them. Even if he's such an amazing offensive rebounder and he actually really could help our team, I don't want him on our team. I really don't. Day'Ron Sharpe would be fine too. But there are some signs that Day'Ron is not interested in being in Toronto. I wish he would, though, because he's very good friends with Scotty. And there's some things that would be cool about that. But I don't know. Day'Ron, do you think that being in Brooklyn's better than being in Toronto? Like, seriously, come on to Toronto, man. What the fuck is wrong with Toronto, bro? Seriously. So you looked at the list, and those were like the two names that stuck out to you, Fiercey? Yeah. Let's get one through the draft. MOK 47474. Good morning to you. Thank you for the subscription today, and thank you for your comment today. I like Hannes Steinbach out of all the centers in our range. If we take a center on the shorter side, I want them to at least be heavy. Hannes is already like 250. This is the difference really between Vassar and Hannes is the size, as far as like maybe one's length, maybe one's more width. And in some ways, I get that. I mean, let me go back and look at Steinbach again on his profile here, just to remind myself of some of his attributes. I remember when I scouted him, I was like, not totally thrilled with him, but you're definitely right. Size matters as far as thickness. And Wembanyama can't play true center because of this, right? And the issues that have kept Chris Boucher out of rotations and playing on the court is partly this also. If you're too easy to be pushed around. That's why when I was thinking about Henry versus Hannes, as far as those two centers coming out, that even though Vassar is like skinnier and stuff, he could bulk up, especially if we get him on the weight training program here with Coach Lee and different people around our organization. So, but yeah, I agree with this. And in some ways, this is exactly true that Steinbach is a much bigger player, 6'10", 248, 7'2" wingspan. Post presence indeed. And what are we looking for from this draft? Rebounding, a post presence, a lob threat. And those three things are essential for if we are going to take some around. So you like him. Now he's been mocked at 13 by Yahoo here. So it may very well be in some ways he's not there by the time we get to 19. But who knows? We're going to have to see on draft day. And if he's around then, who knows? Maybe Bobby is pulling the trigger on Steinbach. Maybe he is. Great first comment. I appreciate you. Mr. Greg saying Matt Bonner, while he was with us, looked into becoming a Canadian citizen so he could play for the Canadian national team. This is a topic that came up on Reddit recently that I found very intriguing. There's a rule in FIBA where you can have a naturalized player on your team. This is Joel Embiid playing for USA, right? We could actually utilize this. Canada never does, though. We don't. There's an American guy playing on the Japanese team with Yuta. We could have a foreign guy that gets naturalized to become a Canadian citizen, and they could play on the national team with RJ and SGA and Dylan Brooks. We could do this. Somebody was saying, why don't we do this? And you know what? I love the answer. Some people were saying, we don't need to cheat like this. We will have just a pure Canadian team. That we don't need to do this. We're not Jordan, and we don't need Rondé Hollis Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to do this. Norman Powell on Jamaica. In some ways he has the roots and he can prove it and stuff like that. But in some ways it's also like there's something cool and pure about these are truly Canadian-born players playing for Canada. But this is an aspect that some people have talked about. If we really want to go to the next level, why don't we naturalize one of the Raptors? Because they're here all the time anyway. Somebody even brought up, why don't we naturalize Shamshe and let him become on a Canadian team as a center for us? Some people don't like Shamshe. They're saying, let him go. Well, he's not that good. Y'all are full of it. I'm going to tell them right now, he is good. And y'all are messed up because you just think he's no good. Because what? Because we waived him because we had to because of fitness to play panel? No, he's good. Trust me. And anybody out there saying Ulrich Shamshe is not that good, forget about him and stuff like that. They're probably people that want him on their team across the border. And they'll just putting out perception wars bullshit. No, we want Shamshe. If we reclaim Ulrich Shamshe, this is a good thing, Raptors Nation. Don't think this guy's washed. Don't think this guy's a dead end. This man got taken out of the league by a bullshit panel. And he is a good player. Trust me. I watched him very closely. I watched every game he played in 905. And I see what's there. And trust me, he's worthwhile to hold on to. He is. Now, I don't know. Who will we get, y'all? Who will we get to be? Who do we get to be on our Canadian national team as a naturalized citizen? Y'all, let's go ahead and do a poll. I want to do a poll. Who do the Raptors take at 19? Who do the Raptors take at 19? All right. Should I do all right, we'll go with Cenac as the first one, Cenac Jr. We'll go ahead and go Sturts since that's the one everybody keeps saying. We're gonna put all four options in there. Let's see who's another one that's big here. Acquaintance, we'll put him on there. All right, we'll put Acquaintance since he seems to be somebody that people are talking about a lot too. And then what's the other one that kind of people? Oh, LeBaron, right? LeBaron's the other one, right? Fill-in. All right. So we got those four options, and these are the ones that kind of been around where we're at, and they've said the most. So here we go. Let's see. We'll do a poll of the day and see what y'all are thinking for this real quick. All right, let's go. All right, let me see. Where am I in my place? Right here. Okay, Dancing Baby Bins is saying I'd love to make a trade for Danny Wolf from the Nets and give a second and Grady. I'm not big on Danny Wolf myself. I don't think he would address the needs that we've put out there just right now. I don't see him as being a lob threat. And is he really going to be a good defender and rebounder in certain ways for us? I don't know. I'm not high on Danny Wolf. I'll just be honest here. Randolph's here. Good morning to Randolph Phillips. Beloved Raptor Freaks fam, blessings. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes. A fool's mouth invites conflict and spreads slander. Don't be a fool. Yikes. Yeah, this is pretty apropos for some world leaders around the world right now. There's definitely some foolish people in charge. This G7's been interesting in the last week. Mark Carney, there's one picture, they've been showing the clip of Trump being confused about leaving the platform with the rest of the leaders of the world. And I see in the picture, Mark Carney, our prime minister, standing in the back row, looking at Trump like he's concerned. he's like, what is wrong with him? You can look at his face in the picture. It's like, what is wrong with him? Like you can read it right through his face. It's hilarious. Well, there needs to be leadership in the free world if we're going to continue to have a free world. And I appreciate Mark Carney for kind of stepping into the void as pedophiles in charge of the United States right now, as far as showing true leadership and proper kind of leadership for like a world leader. Because in some ways, the U.S. has been so good at doing this for a long time to an extent, but right now it completely F's as far as being a world leader and trying to be the beacon of justice and humanity and freedom and democracy that USA stands for and should stand for. It's been perverted and ripped up and thrown in the garbage by a kleptocrat, oligarch, pedophile, rapist who is currently stolen the presidency and is sitting in there like a criminal. So it's like, man, good job, Mark Carney. I mean, this is what makes me think of when you say this, Randolph, about the way of the fool is right in his eyes. Yeah, blessings to the Phillips family, all the Raptor Freak families. That's right. Matt Bonner's a real one. I hold it against him. He's a Florida Gator, but otherwise, he's cool. That's right. Trevor's saying this. I'm seeing more videos with Ulrich working out. He wants to come back. He wants to come back, man. NBA, stop fucking with this young man's life. Don't you understand that he has a lot of siblings and a lot of family back home at the farm in Cameroon? Like, seriously, this kid has not really gotten his payoff yet. And this may be symbolic of a phenomena that happens around the NBA that people don't really know about. It happens more with the college level, that there'll be recruiters that go overseas to places in Africa, and they may find young players that they really want, and they sell them a dream, but then they bring them over and it doesn't work out some reason, and they leave them high and dry, and it really kind of screws them up. You know, there's a little bit of a predatory behavior with college recruiters doing this and selling promises that they cannot keep. And well, in some ways, the Shamshay situation is like that, but on the NBA level. You know, we came and brought him over here. Masai had every intention to get Shamshay to be having an NBA career. I mean, he spent $1 million just to get the pick to draft him. And well, what can we do when there's a weird panel out there that we really don't know anything about, that doesn't really give us any idea what their methods or reasoning is not transparent, and they can just automatically say, well, this guy's medically ineligible to play and you can't have him on your team anymore. To me, it smacks of something weird, especially with the coincidence of it happening twice. Lightning struck twice in the same place. A Raptors center, after their first year out of Cameroon, of all places, the same thing. And what is the same attribute? A very dominant shot blocker. Somebody is going to be able to change some things for the Raptors. And this is why I start getting conspiracy theory that there are forces in the NBA that are trying to make the Toronto teams undersized so that they don't have the ability to compete at the highest level with the rest of the teams, because the fitness to play panel is coming to take these guys when we do find them in Koloko and Ulrich. So I think it's fishy as fuck. And honestly, I want, not just for us, for the Raptors nation and our team, I want to hear this for the young man named Shamshay, that he gets cleared and he can play again. But I don't want to hear him signing with the Lakers or some other team just like Koloko did. I want him coming back. And the fact that he stayed in Mississauga, he's continued to wear Raptors gear as he's worked out. He hasn't done any interview like Koloko did with the Arizona Republic saying, I look forward to playing on my new team. What the fuck, motherfucker? You're not going to come back to Toronto? We drafted you and spent a year investment in you? Siakam? Hello? Masai? Hello? No, I'm going to go be a Laker because I'm with Clutch. And my dude is LeBron. And I'm going to go over there with Rich Paul. You know, that's the one thing I worry about with Shamshay is he's Clutch also. And it was Rich Paul going to say, sorry, Bobby Webster, we're not coming back to you. We're not giving you first dibs. I believe that the NBA should have a system that if they disqualify a player because of fitness to play panel, that the team that they were on originally that drafted them should have first dibs and the ability to treat them like a restricted free agent. I think that that's what they should be able to do, because it's like wrong that we just lost Christian Koloko for nothing. And it's apparently going to happen with Shamshay possibly still. Jury's still out. We'll see. He gets cleared the end of this summer and he's able to be on an NBA roster this year. He better be on the Raptors is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying right there. It also was questionable to me, like maybe Bobby did really covet having Shamshay around still, and that's why that open roster spot was left open this whole entire year, that they could put money on him and put him immediately on the team as soon as he was cleared by fitness to play. So, yeah, what is this shadow entity called fitness to play panel and their bullshit? What is this shit? Seriously. You got to think about this kind of stuff. And I don't think I'm crazy to try and connect the dots and figure out why the fuck did they do this. Is some of it racist? Like, oh, you're from Africa. You have blood clots. You have to sit out. Like, what is this shit? Seriously. Seriously. Neil's saying this. Knicks are walking. They don't have bases. They don't have buses. They're walking. They're walking down the street. They're walking. Okay. Well, maybe we're better because we had a bus. That's cool. Mr. Greg saying, I think it was closer to 4 million in 2019. I interviewed people from Brazil, Spain, and Argentina who came to the parade. I mean, the whole entire GTA closed schools. All the school kids came out and got on the subway and came down there. The teachers and the principals didn't even try to stop the kids. They're like, we know y'all are going, go on. It was like senior skip day. But in some ways it's at the end of the school year. So it's like, yeah, go ahead, go. This is a once in maybe hopefully not a once in a lifetime. This is a very seldom thing that may happen very often. And you know what? We need you to go down there. You go ahead and go down there, kids. And that was part of what bolstered it. It was amazing. I was down near Spadina and University, kind of like I was near University and not Spadina, University and just south of Queen on University. And it was so massive. The amount of people that were there, and it was all the way from City Hall, all the way to CNE grounds. It was amazing. I had cousins that were at the CNE grounds. I had different people in different places. I didn't try and hang out and go to City Hall. I just watched them go by and then I went home. I didn't try to go to City Hall. That was just a mess. There's no way I was going to try and sit in all that. It was too crazy, man. But yeah, I like that. You want to inflate the number bigger, Mr. Greg? I'm with you. 4 million. You go and beat that in New York City. You try it. Let's see. Shaq Lindsay saying, how do you compare Utah Farms and Cowboys, Toronto nightlife, Utah to Toronto? Exactly, Shaq Lindsay. Exactly. I'm telling you, Drake is a factor. As much as people hated Drake being a brand ambassador for the Raptors, he helped. He helped. I mean, his man's got Kevin Durant in his latest video. He's cool to the players. Jamal Shedd's favorite artist is Drake. And that was a recruiting tool for us. In some ways, as much as Drake is annoying and how much he dissed DeMar DeRozan recently, he is an attractive thing about being in Toronto. Because some of these players may be starstruck by him and be like, yeah, I want to come to Toronto. I want to meet Drake. Yeah, I'll come to Toronto. That's an understated thing about him that we don't totally say. And it's true. That's a rite of passage. You Raptor come here. Drake's probably bringing you to his mansion on Bridle Path. And you're probably getting to see his life. And that may be enticing just in itself. Who you going to go see in Utah? Who's in Utah? Who lives in Utah? Danny Ainge. Hi, guys. Welcome to my house. I want to show you my model train collection in my basement. Okay, cool, Danny Ainge. Let's go down there. I heard Danny Ainge was an asshole. He's kind of cool. Actually, he's kind of boring, isn't he? Yeah, let's go down and see his model trains. That ain't going to cut it compared to old Drake, Aubrey. No, that ain't going to cut it. You know what? That cool guy who owns the Jazz, he's going to be like the cool dog on Simpsons. I wear my hat backwards and I like skateboarding. My name's Ryan. Yeah, come over to my house. I'll snowboard with you. Yeah. Is that attractive? As much as let's go to Silent H and sit with Drake in the VIP section in the back and get bottle service. And trust me, there'll be women there. Come on. There's no comparison to this, right? Guys are saying, I'm with you, Lex. I predict Trey is going to stay on the Wizards. It's just because he's going to have to. Because the crazy thing is the trade market wasn't there for him. Why would the free agency, I'm going to sign you to a huge amount of money market be there? He could go to a better team, but he's going to take a pay cut is what it's going to be. If he wants to make the most money, he's staying on the Wizards. If he's going to go to another team, he's going to take a pay cut because nobody's going to pay him what he wants in other places. He just wants a longer term deal, and the Wizards can offer the most money, and they'd be stupid enough to do it too. Neil's saying Grady is actually good. PN getting deflections, good on getting deflections. He plays the passing lanes well. That's true, but he was a liability in some ways too, and that's why he got taken out of the rotation by the end of the year. Yeah, Trevor's saying the player I like, Luigi Suego, withdrawed from the draft. Yeah, he might have been around on my list somewhere, but I did get word the last week that he withdrew from the draft and he's not coming in. Yeah. Shaq Lindsay saying Chris Bosh synergy with the King was undeniable. Well, we have Scotty. Imagine Chris Jr. and Scotty working together. That could be dangerous. Yeah, and put in Colin too. I mean, I'm more interested in, all right, the synergy with Scott is fantastic with RJ. RJ is the best player next to Scott. And we see it in the break. When they are on fast break, it's like James and Irvin. It really is. I mean, that's the shades I see. It's like Magic Johnson is Scotty, and RJ is James Worthy. He's catching those passes and finishing them and in transition with really not a lot of time or a lot of ability to catch it and put it in there. He has that ability. He's putting it in there, you know? So I like that synergy. The synergy of the Bash brothers of Barnes and Murray-Boyles is a new kind of thing. You want to get a triplet, you want to get a trio, you want to get a third bruiser, a third guy who's going to go in there and bash people around like Barnes and Colin. That in some ways, that's a piece we could be looking at right now. I think this is something that everybody's high on right now after this playoff. That people are like, I want to get more people that are going to play like Colin and Scotty did against Cleveland. And maybe there's a guy we pick at 19 that will fit that too. That's something I would think about right there. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. The Knicks found some buses. Okay. Good for them. Good for them. Are you watching it right now? Is it going on right now? Okay. Yeah. You're a real Raptors fan if you're watching Raptors Freak Stream and not the Knicks celebration right now, is what I'll say. Neil's saying I spoke too soon. It is a trailer connected to a pickup. Dolan ran out of money. He owns the Spear. He's got all this other stuff. How did he run out of money? He's just greedy, and he keeps it in offshore accounts. That's what it is. Neil's saying Chris Cenac will be a big-time fouler in his first season. He will have to hone his energy. I think that's going to be true of any player that's coming in as a big. I mean, that's true for our Euros on our Toronto Tempo team. There's a learning curve, and it's not just the learning curve that you have to figure out when to not put your hand in the cookie jar and not get a foul or stuff like that. You got to learn how to be sneaky with your fouls, just like a vet would, like Kyle Lowry or Chris Paul. You got to be also, you got to earn respect from the refs. They got to learn you. They got to understand you. They got to think, is this a good dude that respects the game and respects the institution, the NBA, respects us as referees? And if they get that trust with you, they're more likely to give you calls. But when you first start, rookie calls are a thing that everybody goes through, unless you're a huge superstar that everyone wants to dote on, like Cooper Flag. But superstar, calls don't come to rookies often, and you're not going to get favor in calls, especially if you're involved in little instances with veterans out there like James Harden. They're going to give the favor to the vet. So there's going to be a detriment and a foul learning curve for any player coming in as a young player. And we see it consistently with everybody who comes in, especially bigs. It happens to smalls too. It happens to guards too. That's right. Let's see. Neil saying Zuby is great rebounder, but I still want a bigger center. I would go for Ugana more. So you like Unieso more. Yeah. Yeah. I think that in some ways it's like we were saying earlier, like the commenter had about liking size over length. That may be part of the difference there between Ejiofor and Onyeso. Is you got a stout guy who's very strong defender, a defensive player of the year, and then you've got a very long guy who may be able to be pushed around a little bit, but he's got that length like Gobert to come and block people, Yeah, Ugana is a true 7-footer. Yeah. I like him. His legs are a little skinny, but overall, he's got a good upper body that looks like he can be strong. And that's something that's important too at that height, is you can't just be super tall, Victor Wembanyama. You have to have some strength. That's right. Neil's saying Felix is younger than Ugana, but I would still pick Ugana over Felix. Okay, cool. This is good intel, and I like hearing your preferences, Neil. When Kem left, he had back surgery, and it worked for him. That's why he did well in Europe. Yep. He fixed a lot of issues, and he actually became a better player. And he circled back and played for Team Canada, and we saw a better version of Kem playing for Team Canada around the Olympics time. You didn't see him a lot, but he was moving way better if you're paying attention. Mr. Greg saying also the Grizzlies don't seem to fit Memphis. Yeah, I think that's true. What would they call that team instead? Barbecue? The Memphis Barbecue. The Memphis Blues? I don't know. Memphis River Cats? I don't know. Memphis Steamboats? Memphis Steamboats? I don't know. What would you call that team? Memphis Data Centers? Neil's saying this. Day'Ron Sharp is still too short. I don't know if that's true. I mean, look, we can get away with a 6'9" stout guy, and they can play some of this stuff in the middle there. I believe that. Yeah. Let's see. Kaloy's here. Good morning to Kaloy. Morning, everyone. Imagine if we have an athletic big man subbing in for Yak. Imagine Scotty with a lob threat. That's what we're talking about right here. I think that's what it is. Chris Cenac Jr. off the bench as the backup center and a lob threat and just a young, energetic prodigy, somebody that we're molding, somebody we're building Raptors culture into, somebody who has a mentor from his alma mater in Jamal Shed. There's a lot already set up there that's nice. Now, the thing is, we got to make sure he's not a knucklehead. And this is the difference between drafting Akel Ware or not, because in some ways we worried about Ware when he came out and there were questions about him. And well, the signs that Miami are shipping him out and they don't really want him, that tells you that, yeah, he's a waste of time. And in some ways, character does matter. So as long as Chris Cenac Jr. is a good young man and has his head screwed on right, maybe Bobby does pull the trigger on him if he's available at 19. That's right. That's right. Shamshay is good. There's a reason why he was handpicked by Masai Ujiri. He is good. He has all the tools. He has the same exact body as Giannis. He has all the tools. I would argue he's a really good passer. That's one of the underrated things that people didn't talk about with Shamshay. He's an extremely good passer. Obviously, he's an athletic freak and he can block shots. In some ways, would you look at these guys that we're looking at and talking about for the draft, and who would you want, Shamshay or them? I don't know. In some ways, Shamshay has a real raw talent that is real, and people saw it. And in some ways, maybe that's why Fitness to Play panel's like, nah, Masai hit it out of the park again with another one. That draft class that year with Shamshay being the last draft pick with Shed, Mobo, and Walter, and Battle as an undrafted. That's 5 supremely good pickups that year by the Raptors in one draft class. Nobody talks about that enough. And once again, I'll make the comparison to that group, to the bench mob group that was coming up with the Raptors in 2016. That, Walter and Shed are like Van Vliet and Powell in some ways right now, if you really think about it, guys. Neil saying, man, OG's brother looks just like him, but on steroids. Man, I'm ignoring all this stuff. I'm just sick of it. People are glazing OG so much right now. I get it. OG's a good guy. He's fun. He's a former Raptor, but I can't get into this. I can't participate because it's vicariously celebrating a Knicks victory, and I can't do it. I cannot do it. He's been on Seth Meyers this week. He's doing all kinds of stuff, press stuff. I'm happy for him, just like Fred VanVleet's happy for him, but I don't want to participate in celebrating this at all, and I don't want to see any of it either. I really don't want to have any visual memory of the Knicks championship in any way, whether it's watching the games, whether it's seeing their celebration after, whether it's watching the parade today. So in some ways, I'll even ask you, Neil, respectfully, to stop giving me live commentary from the Knicks parade right now. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. Medved Ted's here. Good morning, Medved Ted. Welcome back, my guy. Good to see longtime Raptor fan and Raptor freak Medved Ted back in the chat today. Hi, Raptor freaks. For a big Morez Johnson Jr. or Chris Cenac Jr., Hannes Steinbach, if we're willing to trade up. For point guard, Christian Anderson, Mikael Brown Jr., if we're willing to trade up to get him. I think it's very unlikely we're going to trade up. I think that the history of the Raptors trading up because of that, it's just you're expending assets to move up in a draft when you're doubling down on, if it's a bust, it's even more of a waste, right? So I think the Raptors are smart in their way that they just take what they get. When have they ever traded the draft to move up in the draft? Have they ever done this historically? Ever? They have not. And Dan even said on Tuesday that this is a premium year. If you want to move up, all the teams are asking for way more than usual if you want to move up in this draft, because it really is like a top 12. And if you want to get up into that top 12, you're going to be paying a premium price, is what he said. So the Raptors on record are very happy just to stay at 19. I think that the percentage chance of us moving our draft pick up is very nil, is almost zero. I think there may be like a 4% chance we may move up in the draft out of 100. So I don't think this is likely in the least at all. That's right. Yeah. You like Christian Anderson? He's more around our spot. Let me go look at him for a second real quick. Christian Anderson is around our spot out of Texas Tech, 6'1", 180 pounds, 6'6" wingspan, 20 years old. He's a 3-point marksman and a dime dropper. So he's got some true point guard skills, but he is only 6'1". And in some ways, that's what I'm saying, man. In this league, being a short point guard, even Shed, as much as he gives us benefits in all kinds of ways, we can see even with him at like 6'3", 6'4", how he's a detriment on our defense, right? So a 6'1" guy is going to be even worse. I'm sorry. I hate being a sizest person, but in the NBA, I'm not trying to get no 6'1", 6 foot point guards like Isaiah Thomas and John Stockton before. It's just not a league for this anymore. The league is evolving into the Wemby era, and that means bigger and better. And I hate to be like this. It's like if you're under 6 foot, making the NBA is really a long shot at this point. It always was. But at least at some point, people like Muggsy Bogues, Spud Webb, Earl Boykins, they had a chance and they could carve out a career. But I don't think this is happening going forward. It really isn't the same kind of thing at this point. It really isn't. The league is evolving. And part of how it evolves is it gets bigger, right? So having a 6'1" guard is not attractive to me at all. It is not in the least, especially the way that switching is happening on offenses and the way that they're exploiting short guys in the post these days. That's a big part of it right there. Medved Ted, great to have you back, man. Neil's saying the Raptors put Shamshay on the fitness panel. The league didn't put him on the panel. The Raptors didn't put Shamshay on the panel, then AJ would not have gotten on the team. That's not true, Neil. You don't understand how this works. The Raptors did not put him on the panel. They did not want to do that. The panel is a bunch of doctors that work for the NBA that are independent, and they check players. And if they feel like there's something that's dangerous about them, this is something like Reggie Lewis spawned. Reggie Lewis had a heart condition that they did not diagnose, and he died on the court because his heart failed in the middle of the game. So in some ways, the fitness to play panel came around to stop players from dropping dead in the middle of the game. So it's like a physical. The doctors look at these players and they're not attached to any teams, but they are dubious. And I have no idea who they are. They tested him and they found that there was a health irregularity and they took him from us. The Raptors did not decide to put him on fitness to play panel. Do you think that Andrew Jones didn't want Ulrich Shamshay to run around in 905 in Mississauga this year? He damn for sure did. So it's like, this is totally wrong. The NBA took him away from us, just like they did Koloko. It's the exact same thing. They didn't do this just to help AJ. No, 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 no. They don't do it like that. In some ways, AJ Lawson's lucky in some ways because of this opportunity. But also, I would argue this. AJ could have been on the team with Ulrich because we had a 17th. We had 17 players on our team this year, and we had 18 spots. And we had an open spot on our roster this whole entire year that Shamshay could have been sitting in. In fact, I would speculate that spot was kept open just in case they did clear him so we could add him immediately back to our team. Does that make sense? That makes sense. James is saying, Lex, would you pick Jaden Quaintance without his injury history? With the injury history? No, not right now. But I'm not a doctor, and I didn't get a look at him up close afterwards to see how he's healed and see if he's back to like the level he was at before. That's the whole thing about it, is you're kind of drafting him blind because he really hasn't come back and shown who he is after his injury and his surgery. He hasn't had a chance to. So you're kind of drafting him blind and on hoping that, yeah, he's going to be the same player that we saw before the ACL. And that's why it's a risky thing to me. Now, granted, there is some value in that. If you do have good information and you're confident that he's okay, you could probably get him late at a good, pick that's very valuable if he is really good. And once again, I'll bring up OG as an example of this and his draft. He was hurt at Indiana. There was some caution, red flags. And well, he fell in the first round, and that's how we got OG so late in the first round. Masai and Bobby did their work. They trusted that he would come back and he'd be fine. But that's the thing. ACL is a little different than what OG was dealing with. OG didn't have that kind of injury. ACL is one of the worst because it can actually very much affect a player's ability and how good they are afterwards. It really, really can. That's what I would say right there. Kaloy saying character and motors is so significant when getting a big man. Most big men are coddled because of their size. Yes, they want to have to work. It's kind of like a thing where you say, yeah, I'm big. I don't have to work hard. I'm just the tall guy who rebounds And if you really need me to make shots, that's part of the problem. That's why it's so rare to find a big guy that works hard and really gets after it, because they can be lazy. And in some ways, that's not a trait we want on the Raptors. We want players that get after it. Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Ayton. In some ways, they've been lazy at times and they've held their teams back, but they're also super big. And that's part of the reason why they feel like they can get away with it. So, yeah, that's it right there. Yeah. Yeah. Shamshe's a nice 6'10". It's the wingspan, and it's also just the speed and some of the skills that he has at that size is really, really, really top notch stuff. Seriously, right there, right there. Neil saying also Raptors could have sat Shamshe. He had to be submitted for evaluation. Shamshe was a two-way, and when he left, AJ got the two-way. Raptors had the 15th spot open to save on money. Yeah, you think that, but nobody answered these questions clearly. I've read into this stuff and thought that, but it could also be that they had that spot open just in case Ulrich got cleared by that panel. That could be true too. We don't know. Nobody spelled this out. Why did they not have that? I've speculated it's because Rodgers is cheap and he wants to save money. And I'm also speculating that that's part of the issue with the tempo and their developmental spots too right now. But it could very well be that Bobby really did want Ulrich to come back, and that's why he kept that roster spot open to jump on it this whole season. And it's not up to us when he gets cleared. That's the whole other thing. It's these doctors that say, yeah, he's fine. He's safe to play at this point. They did it to Victor. They did it to one of the Thompson twins. They did it to Chris Bosh. They did it to Koloko. So this is something, it's the same stuff. It's the same thing that told Chris Bosh, you can't play in the league anymore because you have blood clots and your career is over, buddy. It's the same stuff. Neil saying they would not use that 15th spot until the playoffs was near. So they prorated AJ's pay when they gave him the spot. I think we're talking about totally different things and you're confusing the situation, Neil. In some ways, AJ Lawson has nothing to do with Ulrich Shamshe. You can try and factor in, oh, he wouldn't be on the team because of that. There is actually a way that AJ's on this team and Ulrich is also, just so you know. So, there's ways that they're not interconnected. Let's just put it that way. They're interconnected. They're the same team, but what happened with Shamshe is not necessarily what happened with Lawson in that way, right? Medved saying, what are your thoughts on LeBaron Philin? He's a little taller than Anderson. Well, he's the one that they're actually mocking us for in the draft. This is who the Yahoo says that we need. And this is so dumb. This is what they said on here. The Raptors clearly needed two things after their Game 7 loss to Cavs, a point guard and a center. See, I disagree with that whole thing about the point guard. Our point guard was on the bench and he was hurt. And we don't need a point guard. If our point guard had been healthy, it'd been a totally different series. 6'3", 6'6", wingspan, 20 years old. 175 pounds, Alabama guard. Once again, I'm just turned off by the whole idea of drafting anybody under the height of 6'8", basically right now. Maybe Vision 6'9" is something that I haven't totally let go of. Because I feel like there's guys in this league that can play point guard skills that are at that height. And Scotty Barnes is proof of it. Scotty Barnes is proof of it. I mean, if they really are going for talent and they want best available, and Bobby says LeBaron Philin is the best available right now, we're drafting him. I'm going to have to trust in him, and I'll have to see if he's right. But otherwise, I'm like, look, short guys in the league are defensive liabilities in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways these days. And that's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah. Kaloy saying our biggest need is that rebounding and rim protection last season. I hope that settles this offseason. Yeah, that settled this offseason. Yeah, I mean, we just need depth. It's so similar between the Raptors and the tempo. We need depth up front. Jakob is out, and we are in trouble. Who are we playing at center then? We're playing Sandro at center. We're playing Scotty at center. Scotty doesn't want to play center. He said that in an interview. I want Yak on my team. I want Yak out there because I don't want to play center. Some Raptors fans were like, I want Scotty to play center. He can play center, and we can be a fast team. Scotty don't want that. He said it very plain and clear in an interview this year that he needs a center, and he doesn't want to be the big anvil in the middle that's taking the brunt of the physicality. In some ways, it's not good for our team because he's the best, most important player on our team. And he's taking more abuse and damage from people from playing the center. That's one of the things nobody talks about. It's not just that Jakob is out there supposed to rebound and block shots and do stuff. He's supposed to take a lot of the physicality and be that first line of physicality. And that's a thankless job that a lot of casuals and nephews do not see on the TV screen when they're watching. But I see it. I see what you're out there doing, Yak. And I appreciate it and I respect it. I wish more people in Raptors Nation respected you for it because it's not going to show up in the box score and it's absolutely essential. And think of it as like Scotty's bodyguard. You need this guy out there because he's going to be in the middle of all that doing that work if Yak isn't out there. Does that make sense, Raptors fans? And this is what it is right there. That's it right there. That's right. Neil saying Shamshay wouldn't get a full roster spot. They take Shamshay back, then it will be on a two-way because his development is not complete. We don't know any of this. You're supposing. You're supposing. I mean, the two ways can be flipped around so easily, so quickly. Who were our two ways at the end of the year? Elijah Martin, AJ Lawson got converted. So we actually do have a two-way wide open right now. AJ got converted. Now, AJ's not even on contract for next year. We have to re-sign him and make him a part of things. It could very well be AJ's done with the Raptors and we don't bring him back next year. He's in that weird limbo place right now. It's tough being in his position in the hierarchy of the NBA with being a borderline two-way G League player and a pro. It's very, very tough. You want to get that spot. For hometown feelings and vibes, yeah, we'd love to have AJ Lawson back this year, but there's no guarantees. He's a free agent and he's out there. And in some ways, he may not be back. And we need to be ready for that. Now, the other two guys, Elijah and Chucky, are on the second year of two-way contracts, and they're going to be in two of those spots. But that's a third spot's open. So Shamshay could be on that spot, Neil, if I'm just reminding you real quick how this works, and that AJ Lawson got converted out of a two-way contract at the end of the season so that he could play in the playoffs for us. That's it right there. That's it right there. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Kaz is saying, we know the fitness to play panel is a bunch of biased bullshit. We've already seen it. Wemby and Thompson twin got blood clots, and they came back the same season. When it's the Raptors, they're banned. The thing that I don't like is that, you know, I get it. Maybe they're on different contracts, but these guys are on contracts too. They're just lower tiered. Why is it that we have to waive them? Why can't we have special protections and say this is a hardship, especially since it's out of our control? It really does seem like they're just snatching talent from us. It really does seem like that. Because if it was a just system, you know, we'd have dibs on it and they would still stay in our organization. It's like a special spot and say they're on fitness to play, but they're still the Raptors because they were drafted by them. They've been invested in them. They have a contract with them. But no, we're going to force them to waive them. Like, what is that? And is it only because they're lower tier players on the roster than Thompson or Wembanyama? The investment that the Spurs have in Wembanyama, obviously they're going to do everything they can to hold him in there because he's the future, right? But why is that so much different? Just a little bit more tiers down to a place where Ulrich Shamshay is. That's what I question, and why this isn't done fairly like this. Why do we have to waive Koloko? Why do we have to waive Shamshay? Why couldn't we have a special spot for them? Especially this was not decided by us. It was decided by private doctors. We have no idea who the fuck they are. So that's the thing I have a problem with about it right there. And Kaz is bringing it up right here. Smooth Brown Man saying Knicks players declined an invite to the White House, but James Dolan said they're going. He's making them go. Fuck that. They shouldn't have to go. I appreciate them doing that. In fact, I was very proud of them. That was one of the things I liked that I heard since the championship for them is that they declined the invite, but James Dolan is going to make them go. Like, that's fucked up right there. I hope that they still don't go. I hope that there's a huge issue with this, and I hope that they take a stand. In some ways, this is the front line of not being in a totalitarian dictatorship that an oligarch, a pedophile supporter, and a fucking surveillance state piece of shit named James Dolan is going to tell his serfs and his employees, you have to go. No, this should be freedom of choice and freedom of speech and freedom of rights and democracy. And, well, this is a canary in the coal mine for our whole society. If $1 million players that are popular and famous and the eye of the apple of the New York right now are forced to go to the White House and bend the knee to Donald Trump just because their owner forced them to do that, no, they need to take a stand politically and tell him to fuck off. and that they are still human beings that had autonomous choices and the ability to make their own choices. Yeah, even if he makes them go, I'd like to see a few of them say, I can't make it. I'm sick. I have a prior engagement in China to go and sell shoes. I can't make it. It's my grandma's birthday. I'm sorry. Whatever it is, just lie to him and say, we're not coming. Either way. James Dolan, you really think you can fucking do this? Well, let's test democracy and freedom of rights with the Knicks players of all people, because they should be able to tell their owner no, because this is still a free society, right? Or is this an illusion? Is what I'm saying. That's what I'll say right there. Kaloy's saying Yak is banned from playing FIBA for life. Their team sucks anyway. What? Yak? What do you mean? You're talking about Yaka Pirtle? Wait, this comment doesn't make any sense. Yak is banned from playing FIBA for life. Their team sucks anyway. You're talking about Austria? Kaloy, you need to give me something here. This doesn't make any fucking sense what you're saying here. Yaka Pirtle's not banned from playing in FIBA. What is this shit? Like, where's this comment coming from, Kaloy? Explain yourself. I don't understand this shit. I've never heard this. This doesn't make any sense to me. All right, I'm just gonna see what that. Maybe you'll explain it better down below. I don't know. All right, let's see. Where am I in the chat? Maybe you miswrote that. I don't know. Neil saying, remember, Shamshe was on a 3-year two-way. They had a long-term development plan for him. Exactly. That's why we should be allowed to scoop him back up and bring him back, right? That's why. Kaz is saying, Onyeso is my dream pick for the second round, but I think he will be gone by pick 50. Well, we'll have to see. Who knows? If he's there and Bobby wants him and he takes him, we'll feel good, right? Jay Stone, 9031, thank you for the comment and the subscription. I still can't believe AJ got the playoff roster over AM. I do. I know why. I can believe this. This makes total sense. AJ Lawson has finals experience. AJ Lawson's played in the playoffs. He went all the way to the finals with the Mavericks and played against the Celtics. Is much more useful than Elijah Martin. Much, much more useful. Elijah Martin's a fantastic player, but in some ways he's flawed. And first of all, he's in his first year and he's not ready. AJ Lawson's in like his 5th year. And he's been around the NBA for a long time. It was totally the right move. And Elijah Martin was not ready for the playoffs. That's part of it too. AJ was more helpful. And he did. He showed that. And there were times where he got put in and he was very good in the backcourt being disruptive. We can't get dazzled by elevator dunks and just a strong man. I'm not the biggest fan of Martin because in some ways I don't feel like he's an NBA player. And I don't know if he's actually going to make this league. He has a lot to overcome to do it. And I completely agree with Lawson playing in the playoffs over Martin because he played in the finals with Luka against the Celtics. And that's real experience. We had already enough players on our team that were green and didn't know what the fuck they were going to do coming into in the playoffs against Cleveland. AJ Lawson was one of the more experienced players on our roster coming into that. So that's it right there, Jay Stone. There's your reason right there. If you don't believe it right there. That's right. Let's see. All right, let's see. What is Chloe saying here? It got deleted. I don't know what this is. I just trust this front office drafting prowess. So if it's filling, so be it. But 175 pounds and defensive liability is really a hard sell. But let's imagine Lou Will on this current team. Would that be good? Well, Lou Williams is like 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". I don't think he's actually like 6'1". Lewis Williams, the third, the sixth man of the year for the Toronto Raptors. Yeah, he's not that short. He's like a 6'5" guy. So it's a little bit different with that. It's a little bit different. Mevetet saying, yeah, centers should be our priority, but I also wouldn't be mad if we got a point guard because we can then move quick to the 2. But it would have to be someone with high basketball IQ who can orchestrate offense. But why do we need to make the move and waste the pick on this? The highest priority need is a center. We could do this with Shed and Quickly right now. That's the Quick Shed lineup we used this year. Is Shed it comes in and plays with Quick. Quick shifts to the second guard, and Shed is playing the traditional point guard. We've already been doing this, Medved. We don't need to draft somebody to do this. Shed will do it. Shed will do it. Kaz is saying this: the fact that we have CMB and Scott on the back end means we can take a guard with defensive questions on more easily than other teams. Yeah, that's true to a degree, but also at the same time, you don't want somebody who's so bad at stopping the ball that the other team's getting so much momentum coming downhill that it's a headache for the guys in the paint over and over again. So in some ways, I get you're right to a degree that out of most teams in the league, we could probably get away with this. But in some ways, you don't want that still. You want everybody to hold their weight defensively equally, right? In some ways, you can have a weak link and Scotty will cover up for it. But in some ways, you don't want to have to do that regularly, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Let's see. Kaloy saying we still have questions in rim protection. So I would plug that first before adding offensive firecrackers. But hell, I trust Bobby and Dan. I think that also the Raptors overall has shot so bad this past year, they could only shoot better next year. Seriously, they in some ways had a bad shooting year. Some of it is because Grady just didn't fulfill his promise and what he was supposed to be this year. Some of it is that Darko didn't use Jameson as much as he could have. Some of it is that some of our guys are streaky shooters and they go hot and cold, and some of them all go cold at the same time, and we look like we stagnate like crazy. We just want more steady performers like RJ, people that are going to be steady buckets, that are getting steady stuff all the time. And it may not be outside, it can be inside too. If you can get steady stuff from Scotty in his mid range over and over again, that's just as good as having. It's just that we doted so much on the 3-point shot, and I didn't agree with that. We're not a good 3-point shooting team. Why are we shooting so many threes? Is what I kept asking this year. We're not a good 3-point shooting team. Why are y'all shooting so many freaking threes? That's what I was keep saying there. Yeah. So this past year, let's see. Yeah, and I feel like the offensive firecrackers, in some ways, if you think about what's rarer or harder to acquire, size is harder to acquire than shooting, is what I would say. Although some people say, well, why don't we have better shooters then? Well, because shooting is more common. You can find people with shooting skills easier than bigs that can play in the NBA. That's true. That's true right there. Kaloy's bringing up the news that we talked about earlier that Mahalea is on the short list for the head coaching job for the Maps. Yep, and I think he's going to get it. We covered this at the beginning of the stream, Kaloy, before you jumped in. Let's go ahead and do the tempo redder of the day real quick. We've got today we've got Nearly Adamant as our Toronto tempo redder of the day, and they're bringing up that last night Sandy Brondello was at the Connecticut Sun game. Someone posted on a game thread for Sun game tonight that Sandy was there. Maybe trade possibility with the Mystics or Sun, maybe just scouting. Come on, don't overthink this. I don't think she's there to trade possibilities with the Mystics or the Sun. We already tried to get Austin and we failed. No, it's not about trade. She's scouting. She's there because we're playing the Sun tomorrow. Sun are the next game for the tempo, and they're on the road. They just played in Indiana. And instead of coming all the way back to Canada, they just got on the next flight and went to the next place to play. And they happened to have a game in time for Sandy to scout it in person. That's totally what that is. Is Sandy Brondello went to the game to watch them in person because she's playing them on Friday. And with the changes with the tempo injuries recently, she's probably got to get back to the drawing board with maybe some of the scheming and what she's thinking about doing. And there's also, I got to check later today if Brittany Griner is back yet. And that may be a factor in how we have to play things tomorrow when we play the Sun on Friday night. That's why she was there. It's very evident and clear. There's no trade reason. She's scouting. She's looking at the team up close and in person to figure out what's going on. And the whole team's in Connecticut right now. In fact, some of the players were probably watching the game too, if not at the game like she was. So yeah, there's your Raptors Redditor of the day. Nearly Adamant, talking about Sandy Brondello going to the Connecticut Sun Mystics game last night and scouting for our team ahead of the game this week. That's right. Fiercely saying apologies. I removed Kaloy's comment by accident as I was retracting mine. I was asking why is Yaka banned from FIBA, but it seems Lex was also surprised. Yeah, I don't know if that's true, and I want to know what Kaloy said that for. Why did he say that? Yeah. Sorry, Kaloy. It's all good. AM is so tenacious, though. I know and I love him, man. I think that he's such a competitor. I feel like he's such a strong guy. What I was saying a couple days ago, Jay Stone, was, Elijah would do himself better if he pivoted to trying to be more of a traditional point guard. Seriously. Because this league doesn't have a place for a shooting guard at 6'4". I'm sorry. It's like I've said, it's changing. It's getting bigger, like Wemby. And he may have worked in the old NBA of the 80s or the 90s, but this league is changing. And in some ways, his archetype is not one for the NBA at this point. It's just really hard to do. I get it. He's tenacious. He's a competitor. He's a winner. He's strong. He can really dunk. He's a very great defensive player, too. There's some real attributes that can give him some time in the NBA. But my advice for Elijah is for longevity. If he really wants to be in this league for a long time, he needs to become more of a traditional point guard. And in some ways, he could actually help some of this issue we're just talking about with the perception that the Raptors need to draft the point guard. Well, come back next year and play a little bit more like a point guard at 905 and on the Raptors, Elijah, and maybe doors will open up even more for you. Chucky Hepburn, in some ways, has more of a advantage than you, even being hurt in the middle of the season and missing most of the season because he is more of a traditional point guard. And in some ways, we need that more than an undersized scoring shooting guard. Because look, he can do this stuff in G League. He could do this stuff in CBL. He could dominate the Canadian Elite Basketball League like Javon Freeman Liberty and Evan Gilliard. But it's the same kind of shit as JFL and Evan Gilliard and Jarkel Joyner. These guys are fantastic scorers. They're very, very good guards, but they're undersized and they don't really find a place in the NBA. So that's what I would say. If I was Martin's coach or advisors, I would tell him, you need to pivot into trying to be more of a playmaker because that will keep you in this league. In some ways, that's part of what gave Fred his career. Fred could have easily just been, nah, I'm going to be a shooter. But no, he had to play point guard and be a combo and be a between both positions, like Emmanuel, like Kyle. You know, you got to do this. If he doesn't have the aspect of setting people up and trying to get assists over turnovers, he's not going to get anywhere in his career. I think Martin's amazing, and I like him a lot. I want him to be successful. I'm just telling him a hard truth that I really feel like is absolutely true. And the tenacity is exactly right. You are right. He is. I saw him in person play a bunch of times in Mississauga this year, going to 905 games, and you can see that tenacity up close in person. And you will feel it. That's right. I want him to do good things, but it's up to him. And in some ways, it's like the 2 is not his spot at his height. In some ways, that's what limited him from being able to play on the Raptors this season, too. A lot of games. He didn't get a lot of two-way on the Raptors. He didn't score his first points in the NBA until halfway through the season because it's tough. And Chucky's got a real advantage over him in some ways because he's got a really good defensive aspect to him. And he is a true point guard. And he will hit some threes here and there. But it's not over for Elijah. He has time. It's just if I was him, I'd advise him to pivot towards that. I really would. It would make him more useful and allow him to get more time on the big club. Kaloy said, no worries. I should have phrased it properly. I don't want him to play in FIBA again to rest for the season. Okay. All right. That's what you said. You didn't mean that you were saying the Raptors should ban Jakob from playing in FIBA is what you were saying. Okay. I don't know if that's nice. I know that in some ways, yeah, we figured out that he might have gotten part of his back injury last year from playing for Austria last summer. You know, it's true. Austria doesn't do well, and they don't really get far in anything with FIBA or the Olympics. In some ways, he's doing it out of like pride for his country. In some ways, he's doing it for profile to encourage more young Austrians to get into basketball so that he's not the only Austrian player in the history of the NBA ever. You know, there's a couple reasons why he does it. I think that this summer, he's definitely not going to play any FIBA for them because he probably is very much babying his back. I mean, the assignment for Pirtle for this offseason is to strengthen his back. That's what Bobby said, and that's what Yak said too on the exit interviews, is we need Pirtle to get stronger this summer. We need him to work out and stay strong and stay healthy and very much prioritize that. So he's strengthened his back. And maybe you're right. Then maybe on the down low, Bobby's kind of like, you know, this year, maybe you could skip the Austria stuff just for this year. You know what, Bobby? After last year and how confusing and hard it was. I think I agree with you. There you go. Thank you, Yak. Thank you. Hey, these are pretty good impersonations of Bobby and Yak. Thumbs down to Swain. Swain. All right, let me see real quick. Neil's saying Darko will go back to Grady because it's the only way to showcase Grady. Well, this is the other thing. Grady's assignment is to come back better, to be stronger in his body and also more confident and show this again. This is sometimes how it happens with shooters. They have off years and they just kind of disappear for a year, but they come back because they're motivated. And we see more of the Grady from the second year of his career this year coming up. I'm wishing this for him because if we can reclaim Grady Dick to be what he's promised as a power, this will help immensely in the problem that we had this past year. That's why he was so frustrating to me, is because Grady, this is what you're supposed to be, the sure shot. You're supposed to be the guy that is so dependable with free. You're shooting threes like they're free throws. But that was not the case this year, obviously. And he fell out of the rotation completely. And well, he should have motivation. He should have a lot of motivation this summer. He did say publicly he's open to being traded off the Raptors, but he's also, if he's going to be here, he'd love to be here still. And he'd still like to train and do the things this offseason to be more qualified and ready to take rotation minutes and to contribute in the ways that'll help the Raptors win. He is a key to an answer to our problems. It's just that he's got to do it. He's got to put the work in this summer, and he's really got to come back focused, confident, and ready to show the work and show that it will be successful. That's it right there. Some of this was head games. Some of this is like Grady was confident in his first year, even though he started slow and he was having trouble. He says, I have unshakable confidence. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to be fine on the other side. I forget every miss and I just take the next one like I'm going to make it. He needs to do this, except he has to do it for the year. I got to take this year like last year was a miss and I'm going to make it this year. And his offseason is extremely important because it's important to him personally for his career. And it could really help the Raptors if he does come through and do things right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Jay Stone saying, how do you like that Swain kid? All right, let me go see. I don't think I even looked at him. Some ways, like I said, I didn't really look at a lot of the players that were not at least a forward. Like I did ignore a lot of the guards because in some ways I'm like, we don't really want any of these kind of guard kind of guys. But let me go look at Swain real quick. Where is he on this list? No. There he is, Dalen Swain, Texas, 6'7", 6'10" wingspan. So he's a forward. He's a little bit shorter and smaller than what I ideally want. He's got downhill, he's got a pickpocket, he's a rebounder, and he's a good team defender. Well, I didn't really actually watch him. You know what? I'll do a scout of the day. Why not? We'll do one right now. I don't think I actually really watched this guy because he's mocked lower than 19, and he's not exactly the height that I'm attracted to right now. So I'll go ahead and scout Dalen Swain as the scout of the day for Jay Stone real quick here. And let's see. Dalen Swain. Swain. How do you spell his name? Dalen. Dailyn. Swain. Okay. Okay, there he is. All right. Born in 2005. He's 20. He's from Columbus, Ohio, 6'8", 225 pounds. He was second team all SEC. Okay. All right. Let's see. What is his star recruits? Oh, they don't have whether he's a 5-star recruit or anything. 3-year college player, 2 years at Xavier, 1 year at Texas. All right, let's go look at him on the YouTube. That's the next spot. And I'll do this is just like a music reaction channel. I'm going to do a blind scout right here that I haven't really watched him. I have to admit, I didn't watch him. I didn't pay any attention to him. All right, we'll look at Dalen Swain, college highlights, guard, Texas. All right, let's see. Hopefully it will allow me to watch it without too much skipping around. The internet's been so buggy, as I said earlier. Okay, right off this bat, I see a 3-point shot from him. It looks like he's got nice form. He's got nice shoulders. He's got a nice upper body. That could make up for the couple of inches that he's missing on his wingspan and his height. Is that he's a bruiser. Got a big body already, so he's not going to need as much weight training right away. Oh, I like that he has a slasher mentality where he'll go to the basket, put the ball on the floor. He runs around picks really well. That's a nice little juke move around the defender to evade him to get a layup. So he looks like a true slasher. So in some ways, he's looking like a three to me because he's very much attacking the rim, which is a good thing. It's not bad. I like the aspect that he's got. This is all offensive clips, but it's saying on his profile that he's a good defender too. So the two-way aspect of that is checked off for Bobby Webster. There's a big smile and a Scotty Barnes bicep pose after a play there. He's on running. He threw it to his teammate, and his teammate threw it to him. There's the lob threat right there, and it's a Kentucky defender. And there he goes. He's kind of got Scott's celebration pose. You might have to change that. He's putting his arms up like this a lot. Yeah, wow. There's a nice little right-handed, underhanded shot going to the basket up underneath the arm of a tall defender. So he's a sneaky scorer. He's definitely a sneaky scorer. I would like to see another three just so I can analyze his three-point formation and how he shoots. Because a lot of this stuff is him driving and attacking. I don't see any post up here. I don't know if that's necessarily important, whether he has a post up or not. In some ways, I'd like to see a defensive highlight in here, maybe at least one block or steal somewhere in here, but everything's offensive so far. Yeah, he's good in transition, so he'd be able to get out in the court and run with Scotty and RJ when they're getting down the court. He'd be another person to fill a lane. Yeah, I don't know. He's all right. I guess I kind of slept on this guy or didn't really check him out, partly because I saw a 6'7". I was like, maybe he's not making the cut. He's okay. Like I like the fact that he's got a strong body already. And the weight room will be really kind and easy to him coming in the NBA. Sometimes guys have a real hard time putting on muscle, but I can tell this dude will probably have easy time getting bigger. So, and there's a real mix here. There's a midi, there's the outside there. Yeah, I like that. He did a rock them to sleep kind of move, and then he got elevated and made the three. So he's got all three levels of scoring, which is good. He's got the drive the basket, he's got the midi, and he's got the 3-point shot. He's not bad. I mean, I would say this is a dark horse. The fact that he's being mocked below 19 maybe was partly the reason why he didn't get on my radar, is because it's like, well, this guy's not really getting picked around there or that. But yeah, all right, Jay Stone, thank you for the scout of the day. I'll go ahead and give a thumbs up on him as a dark horse, or maybe just a really interesting possible choice. I'm not with Neil and Kaz. I'm going thumbs up on this one. He looks like a good player. I just don't know if he's best available at our spot, especially if some people fall through the top part of the draft to 19 and we're opportunists. You know what I'm saying? Jay Stone's saying he's tough as toughness. Look at Alvarado. Good call. Playmakers are important. Yeah, and that's the difference too with Jose and Elijah, is that Jose does play point guard. And Grand Theft Alvarado is so valuable as far as like stealing the ball in the inbounds. Oh my gosh, that's his signature move. That's the thing. The NBA is like this. You got to carve out a niche. You got to carve out an identity. You got to carve out something that you do really, really well that teams value. And if you have a lot of good talent, you could have all kinds of different things, but there's not one specific thing that keeps you around. And that's the problem. That could be the problem too for Martin, is he's got to find something that defines him, that makes teams want him for sure. And Alvarado's done that very successfully for a man his height. For sure. Yeah. Kaz is saying my picks for the Raps, if they're available at 19, Morris Johnson Jr., Hannes Steinbach, Cameron Carr, LeBaron Fillion, Sturts, Chris Anderson, and Okuri. So he's mixing and matching the bigs with the smalls in here. Those are acceptable to you? Okay. Neil's saying efficiency matters no matter what size you are. I agree with that. Definitely. Fiercely saying, I hear you, Carlo. It would be wiser if you rested it out this summer. I think that's the priority this year. It could very well be last summer. Yak was very, very healthy, and he felt fine. But also there's some speculation that Yak's injury happened around training camp or around when the Raptors were working out in other places before training camp. So who knows? Either way, he does need to baby his back this summer and prioritize optimal health for the start of the season, because that's where you make your big money, Yak. It's with the Raptors. It's not playing for Austria. That's right. That's right. If Yak plays this summer, I will crash out. Okay, Marina, you gonna crash out if Yaka plays for Austria? Fiercely saying we don't see that many clips of Grady training. I just saw one with Andrew Jones. I'm sensing a huge improvement next season, Grady 3.0. I have a feeling this is very telling. We know Andrew Jones has stepped back from being the 905 coach. It's a 2-year contract, and he's done. He's done his 2 years. Very successful second year. This past year was fantastic. Getting to the Cup game final against Utah last fall, and then a very good regular season too with a playoff appearance. Andrew Jones is on a high. He's really confident as a coach, and he did a really good job teaching some people. So maybe, it's kind of like this. He came to Darko and he said, Darko, send me to Kansas. I want to go there and help Grady. I feel like I can help Grady right now. Oh, Drew, you want to go help Grady? Go ahead. I love that. You go there and see if you can help him get back on track. All right, I'm there. So he goes down there and he's in Kansas with him. And Andrew Jones may be talking some hard truths to Grady Dick because he's no nonsense. And he's a good motivator. And it could be very well that Andrew wants to add something to his resume and say, you know what? I'm going to fix Grady Dick. I'm going to fix him. I'm coming down there and something like that. It could very well be that this year, in some ways, the coach for Grady and some of the shooters for the last couple of years has been Coach Evo. Coach Evo was the coach for Grady and Gary when Trent Jr. was still on our team. He's been the coach for Jacoby. He's kind of been the shooting coach. This may be signaling that Evo might be the next coach in 905, and Andrew Jones is taking over that position for Darko on the regular Raptors this year. So the special interest and the fact that Drew Jones is there with Grady this summer right now, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Hopefully he can motivate him and get him back on track. That would be a huge feather in his cap and looking real good, building off of the 905 success he's had already recently. So, yeah, I pay attention to this, and it's real nice that Andrew Jones is down there with Grady right now, hopefully helping him. You totally catch this. That's right. And Fiercey, I'm going to give you a dunk for this. Because I forgot to bring this up. This is something I saw last week, and you're catching the stuff that I should have mentioned on the show, but I've been so tempo heavy. Some of the Raptors extra stuff that I would talk about, I haven't talked about recently. And this is something I wanted to. So, Fiercey, you're getting a dunk for bringing this up. 90 on the dunk charts. You got 90. Wow, she's up there. She's 90 dunks. Wow. All right, let's see. Kaz is saying 2-finger salute to James Dolan and the Knicks. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I want to see, this will be a test to see how much freedom we have in society anymore. Are these guys going to be forced to go there? Seriously, they're not little kids. These are grown men, and they should have the choice, James Dolan. That's right. Trevor J saying when it comes down to what we want, but at the end of the day, it's what Bobby wants, not what we want. Yeah. Yeah. And, this whole stream today, the whole idea of doing these Thursday think tanks the last couple of years to help with the draft is some ways to educate Raptors Nation on what we truly need, but also to make just friendly suggestions of what I see from this channel and what you guys see. And, kind of putting it out there, if Dan Tolzman or some people in the Raptors organization are keeping an ear to our channel as a easy, unfiltered, free opinion box from fans right there, and fans that really do have the right intentions for the team and rooting for them as real, true, passionate fans and not just clickbait content makers that care more about their subscriptions than actually if the Raptors are good, then maybe they do listen to us and they say, well, these are interesting concerns. And maybe they do hear something that we say and they're like, wow, we didn't think of that. Maybe this is something. I don't know. We're just trying to be helpful. But there's no ego in this. Like I said, I've gotten a couple of these draft picks the last couple of years wrong. I've gotten a few right, but I've gotten a few wrong. And I got Grady wrong. I got Colin wrong, but I did get Koloko right. And I did have Walter on my radar as far as somebody that the Raptors should look at, but I didn't strongly consider him because I didn't think he'd be available. I didn't think Walter would be at 19. So I was like, I'm not going to promote Walter for us to pick because I honestly don't think he will fall that far in the draft, but he did. But he did. That's it right there. But he did. That's right. Neil saying Grady focusing on movement shooting is what hurt him. It is the hardest technique to master. But man, that's maybe what I saw in his scout. Like when I scouted him so long ago, like we're doing right now in his year. You can go back and watch it in the archive. When I talked about Grady, I said, don't draft Grady because there's skills that he's doing at Kansas that won't translate to the NBA. But then I did see some of it translate, but some of the stuff with the shooting didn't translate. And that's what we're talking about right here. Man, I mean, both him and Jameson have had to do similar paths as far as trying to find movement shooting. And it seems like Battle has had more success adjusting and being a better off the dribble kind of shooter than Grady has, which is an interesting part right there. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Kaz is saying we already have a better version of Dalen Swain on our roster. His name is RJ Barrett. I love it. I love it. You get a dunk for that. That's right. Don't disrespect our Captain Canada, RJ Barrett. The man is built to be a Raptor, and he wants to be here. And that is so much value and pricelessness in that. 56 on the dunk charts for Kaz. Don't ever forget our star J. That's right. Don't ever forget him. That's right. All right, let's check in on the poll real quick. 44% of you guys like Cenac Jr., 28% for LeBaron, and 22% for Jaden Quintans. It looks like Sturts is not popular with you guys. It looks like there may be only one vote for him so far. All right, let me check on my tabs real quick. Let's go over some CBL action last night. Guess what? The dry spell for the Surge is over. They went and beat Brampton last night, 102-99. 3-point win for Calgary Surge, getting their first win of the year. They are 1-10 now, but they finally broke that zero. And it was 19 points by Sean Miller-Moore, the captain, starting, and 16 points on the bench by Armani Chaney were the leading scorers for them. On the other side for the Honey Badgers, 26 points for Cameron Tyson in the losing effort. But yeah, Calgary finally broke that losing streak of 0-10 to start the season and won their first game of the year against Brampton, of all teams. Brampton was like riding high as one of the top 3 teams just like a couple weeks ago. But boy, have things changed. They have been on a losing streak recently. The other game last night was Edmonton and Montreal, and Alliance bouncing back without Javon Freeman-Liberty, who departed from the team last week. They did a good job and came back and beat them last night, 95-76, almost a 20-point win. Wow. And that was in Edmonton in their arena. Stinger fans cannot be happy about this, especially since Montreal has been one of the worst teams this year so far. So 2 of the worst teams in the league won last night. Montreal got 13 points from Quincy Guerrier with 12 rebounds. A double-double for Michael Hughes, the second also, with 16 points and 13 rebounds. So, yeah, they were the 2 main scorers. There was a balanced attack for them with Lou Williams III with 12 points, Kevin Osway with 12, Guillaume Bouchard with 13, and Jalen Anderson with 12. Yeah, they got to make up for the loss of Freeman-Liberty, but it looks like they won last night. So CBL action is going on again tonight. So let me let you know what the games are for tonight if you want to watch them. We've got one game tonight. It's going to be Vancouver at Winnipeg at the Canada Life Center. Tip-off is 8 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on CBC Gem, YouTube, or CBL Plus. Canadian Elite Basketball League action is awesome. This is a 7-3 Vancouver team versus Winnipeg Sea Bears. Jarkel Joyner and Jalen House versus Teddy Allen. So y'all check out Vancouver versus Winnipeg tonight at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Yeah, Trevor's saying Raptors parade was bigger than New York parade today. Just 1 million people showed up. You're watching it? Is that official account so far? There's only 1 million people there? And we got close to 4 million. Mr. Greg said we had close to 4 million earlier. Yeah, interesting. All right, we're going to figure this out. In some ways, they'll probably lie and say they had a bigger crowd either way. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Let's see. What else is going on? Is there breaking news? No. Nope, not there either. I guess they've announced that it will be Liberty versus Aces in the Commissioner's Cup championship game on June the 30th. Yeah, so New York will host by virtue of having a better point differential in all regular season games. So, yeah, two of the former winners of the Commissioner Cup will be playing for the Commissioner's Cup again this year. And the game will be in New York at Barclays Center. Vegas Aces versus Liberty for Commissioner's Cup on June the 30th is the official word. Y'all, straight goods on Canadian goods. Today, I want to talk about breakfast or brunch. Sunset Grill is a great Canadian restaurant chain that started in Toronto in the beaches by Angelo Cristo in 1985. And now they have more than 80 locations in Southern Ontario, mostly around Greater Toronto area in Hamilton. So if you see a Sunset Grill near you, know that that's a fantastic place to go get a breakfast and eat. A lot of their food is locally sourced in Canada, and they're a very proud Canadian restaurant chain. So eat at Sunset Grill. It's a much better choice than Denny's Cream Thomas. I will say that. Once again, I want to say and backtrack again because I did not get a chance to do this properly yesterday because the early stream cut off. Happy birthday, Emmanuel Quickly. Protected by God, Quickly. We love you so much. It's oh, call Emmanuel and see that his talent is real. That shots afar are made here, and to the Raptors winds will appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel. We come to see your talent is real. That's right. I'm going to sing that song for Emmanuel every single day, making game winners and being the starting point guard of the Raptors. Happy birthday. Also, a happy birthday to one of our favorite Raptor freaks, Kenrick Chronic Art James. Happy birthday, Kenrick. Kenrick is an artist here in the Greater Toronto area that does tattoos, and he also does drawings and art for people commissioned. So if you're looking for some cool Raptors tattoo or any kind of art that maybe you want him to draw in a poster or something like that and put on your wall, Kenrick Chronic Art James is your guy. Look for him on social media. He's a great Raptor freak, a longtime Raptor freak, a supporter of this channel, somebody who's done work for me personally for this channel. And y'all just wish a big happy birthday to Kenrick today. And a great way to show him support is to support him by using him as a business and getting a tattoo done by him. His work is awesome. I see his examples of his work on his social media pages all the time. And he's very, very talented. So if you need a Raptors tattoo, Kenrick Chronic Art James is a real one for the team, and he'll put the right spirit into it for you. So happy birthday, Kenrick. We are very, very happy to say happy birthday to you today. All right, I guess we're getting close to the end here because we're at the end of the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and get this box out. And yesterday we did not do a card, so we're going to do a double shot today. 2 chances to get the classic card of the day today. If you're new to the channel, what we do at the end of the show is I get an old basketball card out, and we cover the name, and y'all have to guess the name. Put the full name answer into the chat, and you will get the points. Don't half-ass me. Don't put the last name. Don't put the first name. There's none of this LeBron stuff. LeBron James Sr., because we don't know. You could put Bronny James in there. So just in case, you know this. All right, here's the first classic card of the day. Please make sure you're live so you can be on top of it to get it. Speaking of centers, let's go ahead and do this right here. Who is this classic card of the day? This is the very popular hoop set. So this may be a card you very well may have owned yourself if you were collecting basketball cards around 1990. Yeah, there you go. Slug Deezy, the king of the classic card, has checked in for the first time this new trivia seasons, and he's getting Kevin Duckworth as the classic card, the one for yesterday. And we're going to do a second one in just a second. I don't think this is that hard, so I'm going to give you, you know what, I'll give you 100 for this one. So 100 points for Kevin Duckworth. Slug Deezy takes one shot. He doesn't shoot to miss. OG Ananobi. That's right. One shot, make it. That's right. So let me get this put in real quick. Slug Deezy, you're on the board. You're in third, though. Seymour is our current trivia champion leader right now, and Fiercey is in second. But you are in third, and you are checked in on the points. But if you get this next one, you have a chance to possibly be ahead. So Slug Deezy is checked in. The king of the classic cards got 100. already. Let's see. All right, let's do the next one. Just a note, we will do a trivia on the 30th at the end of the month. There will be the first Tuesday trivia on the 30th of June at the end of the month. So we will be doing a straight up trivia then. That'll be the first regular trivia. All right, here we go. The second classic car of the day. Okay, yeah, we'll do this one too. All right, they're from the same era. Let's see who gets this one. Be fast. Fast fingers, because this one will go fast. And this is not going to be a lot of points because this one's easy. I'll hold it from far away because I don't think you guys are going to have a hard time with this one. Full name answer. Remember, full name answer. That's right. Full name answer. Do I need to bring it closer? I think you can tell by the shape of his hair on his head. You should be able to tell who that is. Yeah, Slug Deezy knows. And he spelled it perfectly, too. That's not an easy name to remember how to spell. Yes, Detlef Schrempf, of course, the great German player of the Pacers was the card today. Detlef Schrempf is the classic card of the day for today. I'm going to give you 50 on this one. I feel like he's even easier than Kevin Duckworth. So, Slug Deezy, you're getting 150 points. You are tied with Fiercey now for the year so far. So, yeah, Slug Deezy, this is your year to get it, man. You go get as many classic cards and trivia points as you can this year and ride with the big dogs. Although Seymour's the leader right now, getting Ramil Robinson yesterday for 200. Let's see. Fiercey's saying, you would think more people would show up for New York Parade considering the madness we witnessed in the playoffs. Oh, well. You know, people in New York, to live in New York, they got to work to afford that lifestyle in there. So it's like, yeah, who knows the reasons why sociologically that there's not as many people out there. Maybe people are scared to go out there because they're like, man, there's going to be people shooting guns and acting stupid, and I don't want to die. So maybe there's safety concerns. Maybe the whole idea of what Knicks Nation is not like what Raptors Nation is, which is very organic in every person. In some ways, the Knicks fans may be more like higher class celebrities and Wall Street people. And they're like, I'm not going out in the street like that. No, I cannot. I don't know. What is the reason for this? I do have questions for this. I do. Yeah. I do have questions for this. There you go. Slug DZ is getting props from Fiercey on that one. All right, just to recap real quick, in the last 9 minutes before I hit 3 hours, we were talking draft today. Bobby Webster, don't listen to the noise. I'm sure you're not. You never did. You and Masai were always above the noise. But unfortunately, the fans are conditioned by the noise, especially from the U.S. press down south. And they get ideas and they get assumptions and they feel like this is what the Raptors should do when it's not the best advice because it's coming from people that don't want good things for us. Remember that, Raptors fans. When this draft comes around, we've learned this from Scotty Barnes' draft, that you guys aren't right, and they are right when they make these picks. So let's just keep remembering that. I don't have an ego to say, oh, man, Bobby, you really screwed up, even though you drafted Grady Dick. You know, you can't do that. You can't do that. You've got to trust in our front office because our front office deserves trust. It's not the Wizards. It's not the Jazz. It's not the Trailblazers. Our front office deserves trust because they are good like that. So once again, I'll go over real quick. My top 5 picks for number 19 in the draft for the Raptors. Chris Cenac Jr. of Houston, number 1. Yaxel Lendeborg of Michigan, number 2. Morez Johnson Jr. of Michigan, number 3. Alan Graves of Santa Clara, number 4. And Henry Visar of North Carolina is my 5th choice at 19 possibly. At 50, these are the 5 guys that I like there. Zubi Ejiofor of St. John's is my number 1 choice at 50, if he falls that far. Ugana Onyenso of Virginia is my 2nd choice. Felix Okpara of Tennessee is Isaiah Nelson of South Florida, and Dylan Mitchell of St. John's. Those are my 5 diaper dandies, I guess, if I'm going to throw something out there like Dick Vitale used to do. Old school, yeah. That's what this channel is. We just did a classic card with Detlef Schrempf. Come on now. I'm going to call them diaper dandies. So these are Lex's diaper dandies, Bobby Webster. So heed my information, if you will, if you want to. And hopefully we'll get somebody who's going to be a lob threat, like Dan said the other day, that's going to be able to protect the paint, that's going to be able to get rebounds, and is going to be able to help our front court depth. Because that is the priority to me. In this point guard talk, well, IQ was hurt. We don't need a point guard. We got Quickly. And that's what I say right there. Yeah. Yeah. Any word on Pirtle's back? It's fine. He played at the end of the playoffs, right? It's a management thing. He's not hurt or anything. It's just that it's a thing that it's going to be a condition that he's got to manage. And it's not necessarily that he's not hurt right now. He's probably fine. So it's really got to, the whole plan for him this summer is to strengthen his back. That's what they said. So there's going to be weight training this year. And there's going to be him trying to build his muscles in his back so that he's stronger and he's not having any of these chronic problems. That's what they're going to do this summer. That's it right there. Yeah, Seymour's saying, I hope Brandon comes back stronger and better with health. Well, it's a good thing he did his surgery immediately after the playoffs because he's actually due to be recovered from his surgery by the end of this month. So he's not going to miss the whole summer because he's got his foot in a cast. He's going to be healthy and ready to participate in Raptors offseason stuff in July. And he'll be able to go from July, August, and September into the season, recovered from his surgery because he didn't wait till the last minute. He got it done right away. So he has a runway to take off with his health in the off season so that he can be optimal health and ready for the first game of the season. That's what's up with BI, just so you know right there. Yeah, that's the word on that. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching the Raptor Freak stream. Tempo Freaks come back tomorrow. We'll have the preview for the Connecticut Sun Tempo game Friday night. I'll have the latest lineup news, the stuff about Brittany Sykes and Niara Sabally. And also, I'll tell you who the refs are tomorrow and how they are towards the tempo so far. So thanks for patronizing the Raptor Freak channel. Thank you for your subscriptions, your comments, your input. It's a two-way street on this channel. It's not just me up here telling y'all what it is. You guys are telling me like it is too. And it's a real forum. It's a true forum. In other places, they're going to just have content on Raptors Digest, Locked On Raptors, Raptors Republic, all those other places. This place is for the fans, and we're going to do it with y'all here in the comments section. I'll read them all. Even if you're a troll, I'll read at least one comment. All right, let's go Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman and make the right choice next week when we're at the draft. We're going to get the right people. I trust Bobby, and all y'all should too. All right, let's go tempo. I'll see y'all tomorrow for a preview for Sandy's team against Connecticut tomorrow. Let's go and touch grass today. That's what Sky wants.